All in all, show of hands, who read the book Paul gave us last month called How to Become a Rainmaker? Who read that? It's okay, be honest. A few takeaways on the book. I read it, and some of that stuff I thought, man, do I agree with that or not? I don't know. The main thing is what do you take away from something? How do you apply it for you? So I want to thank Paul for doing that. Anybody got some feedback on the book that did read it?
Valuing your time.
Valuing your time. Very good. Any other comments?
Dollarization.
Dollarization. You picked up on that. That's good. Anything else?
Treat your customer like you're your best friend.
Treat your customer well. Yes, yes. So I took away just a few things. To have a plan. Got to have a plan. Don't shoot from the hip, right? Be prepared. Kind of that Boy Scout motto, if you will. Be prepared. Be patient and be focused. Don't be so giddy to make the sale or talk about the weather. Have a plan and execute. So the other thing was have your receptors up. Those deer hunters out there, get them antlers out there, right? Be receptive. Take cues. Read body language. And it may take several calls to make the sale. I think I read somewhere, it takes about 9 calls to make the sale on average. You got the fortitude to work through your plan. So asking questions, that really should be our motto here. Just ask. Ask questions about their business, questions about why they do things, questions about how we can help them, but ask for the sale too. So gaining permission, dollarized sale, benefit to the customer. It really is about the customer. You're selling a solution, saving them time, money, solving a problem. So professional, don't small talk, value your time, value your customer's time, and that point system. I really like the point system. That was pretty good. So again, we're the rainmakers, right? We need to make the rain, bring the money home. And so it was a good book. And if you haven't read it, there's kind of the synopsis, if you will. But it's a quick read, less than 2 hours. I think you'll find it's meaningful. And if in doubt, go to page 112 and dial right in there. So the other thing I liked about that book was the idea of early sales calls and knocking out some stuff early in the morning. So you always had some success. It kind of goes along with that. You get up, make your bed every morning, so you accomplish something. You know what I mean? Same thing with the sales. Go get that big sale. And yesterday I was in the Tiger Joe bar. The morning after, I didn't realize we even had a bar at the corporate office. But there was a quote on the wall. How many have been to the Tiger Joe bar in Rosemont? Have you seen the gazelle photo on the wall? The saying? Well, let me read this to you because it came to the point of early sales. I'm reading the book and I'm like, man, does everyone know what a gazelle is? All right. If you're into Dave Ramsey, you probably heard of that a little bit too. But let me share the story and how it relates to us in a sales mindset. So every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning a lion wakes up. It knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter if you're a lion or a gazelle, when the sun comes up, you better be running. Pretty good, huh? I like that. It's a mindset there. I'd rather you all be hunters. So, just a few things to put in your head today as we start. Ken, I want to thank you for the offices. We're getting close. They've been painted, new tiles, new insulation, carpets in this week. We'll be able to consolidate most of the team together in that one area, so I'm pretty excited about that. We got a new transportation supervisor, got Brian on board, and some other folks joining us as well, drivers and whatnot. So we're filling the deck to support the sales effort. So the hub audit went extremely well. I want to thank the team for all their energy and making sure that went much better. It was noticed all the way up through the organization, and it's a pride point to be part of such an organized company. Open enrollment for your benefits. Everybody see Kim's email on that? It came out. So yesterday through the 14th, make sure you get your benefits addressed. There was a note that came out regarding Reesers. They decided not to continue with the private label program on the salads. So we'll be going to Mrs. Jerry's on that. So be sure you take notice of that. Mrs. Jerry's a real quality line. I think you'll be pleased with that. So Dining Alliance checks. Supposedly they have arrived. I haven't seen them yet. Do we have those to hand out by chance at all?
They've already been handed out.
They've already been handed out. Great. Anybody have some success signing, converting some accounts last month on that?
We've got a schedule down for some support that's happening as we speak to
Okay.
get all that happening, get them more comfortable with it
Yeah.
out in the field.
Okay, well, it's a tool in the toolbox. The big thing is that Unipro, the companies which Benny Keith particularly part of, they had a big food buy meeting in Chicago last week, and so it's a priority for them to convert that business. So again, use it as an opportunity for you to go capture some stuff. I have been interviewing for sales and vice president of sales, working to add quality people to our team. So I want to make sure everybody's proud of who we have on our team. So working on that, not prepared by any stretch of the imagination to get that done. Went down to New Orleans to, did I say that right? New Orleans? To the sales meeting down there, gained some perspective on how they do things there and the shared services for us. One thing that happened while I was there was the margin bump. We took a dime increase on that. And again, I ask that you do your part to maintain that bump. We do not want our peers to help us manage our business. So one thing you'll note on TGP dollars below 150, there's some help there as far as helping manage last margin. Go into effect next week. So your managers have talked to you about that. Hopefully there's no surprises there, what customers are going to tell you there. But really, the sales control the pricing, first and foremost. So manage your pricing on that, on all your accounts. Okay? That dime we took resulted in about a penny retention on our end. So, we do have good margin. It's more about selling a good mix than going crazy on that. So, challenge yourself to treat your customers right, treat them fair, but know your value, get your price. So, treat them right and charge them plenty. What I mean by plenty is enough. Okay? Value our company and our services. What drives that is fuel and operation expense. Fuel alone is a big number, and versus a year ago, it's eating away margin. I'll put it into perspective for you. My former company, labor was a big deal. I saved $750,000 in labor this year already on labor, only to spend it almost all the way back out on fuel. So be conscious of extra deliveries, things like that. So and you guys talk the talk. When I'm with you, you're already talking how many cases per drop and stuff like that. You're doing the right thing. So I'm just trying to give you the big picture on why the margin thing is a real pressure point. Growth, learned a little bit more about that method. When I was in La Crosse last week, I was all excited because of this system called Firefly. Well, it's melded into the growth model. I know you'll be reviewing your coaching opportunities and with the RSMs and frequent work with and all that stuff. But we will be focusing on generating that database, particularly for new growth. And I don't know how many people are familiar with that Firefly system. Okay, it's pretty intuitive on the market, help you drill down, be more focused. So the big thing is to look at where products are being sold, what do we want to sell as a company, drive those items, drive those accounts, look at our mapping of trucks, look at where our salespeople are, and help drive focus. So we'll be working through the managers to do that with you and using that growth model. So it was very pleasing to see the growth in the managers doing that in the sales training last month. But the reality of it is this: let's shoot bullets, not shoot shot. Okay. So mentioned going up to La Crosse. We have Rosemont this week. Been in 8 states, 6,000 miles, 24 nights in hotels, and I'll tell you, I'm ready to get down on the ground here. So it's been a whirlwind month. I don't know if I would have picked a better time to come in with the end of the quarter, budgets for next year, and we had our presentation, our budget to the executive team yesterday. I was told I did well, represented as well, so I feel good about that for whatever I can take that for. But here's some takeaways from yesterday. So the growth number for us is 400,000 next year. Margin is a key focus for me, particularly. Op expense continuing to rise. We have to be sales-minded. So again, my big goal is mindful of mix and margins. They challenged me. It was one thing that I was particularly interested in when I took the job, was to be invested locally in the chamber, for nonprofits, restaurant associations, and Jeff King flat challenged me to do that, to get involved in the community. Vendor reviews with my purchasing team coming up here. Meet our top healthcare customers, and then any Jeopardy, meet our top customers, any Jeopardy customers, kind of evaluate that. So we'll be doing business reviews with our top 20 customers. Shared services with New Orleans. TJ's here somewhere. Where you at, TJ? Right over there. This man's going to help us center the plate this year. I'm excited about this particular training on protein today. But produce, business development with ACE, plan to use it, start having a plan to utilize our shared services, get our time and investment from them as well. Another big goal for me is to create opportunities for our customers and our vendors. So that's kind of the local marketing piece. I've been hearing a lot of pressure, getting peer pressure about a golf outing. So perhaps we can get some stuff like that done next year. But the biggest challenge for Jeff King was, besides one particular account he wants me to make sure we have in this town, was to own my distributorship. Filter the message for corporate, make it apply to us. So they've asked me to lead you guys, and I'm honored to have that opportunity. I want to thank Michael and Ken and Kim for their help on the budget. It was a big project, and their input was very vital to a successful presentation. So I came into the room yesterday, and the script was thrown out the window, and we had to wing it. So again, preparation means everything. Plus, I could say I was a little nervous. So the CAB training. You guys, I really look forward to hearing your plus minus on the training today. To me, I would tell you this is a brand that we need to hang our hat on in the market. Again, kind of like our e-brands, it's a point of difference for us. But really, what they offer to our customers, the quality, what it does for us as a distributor, I think it'll be something you really enjoy today. So I want to thank for the investment of the team being here today to help train us on that. Branded beef, remove that cost, talk about opportunities for the customer, driving sales, driving butts in the seats, things of that nature. So secure your business and sell the animal, not just the middle meat, so sell the animal, okay? So good luck with the training today. Become an authority, become an expert to help your customer and grow your business. A couple more things and then we'll turn it over here. Thanksgiving. We all have a lot to be thankful for. For me, I'm thankful I sold my house. And I'll only be homeless for 2 days. So I bought a home in Shreveport. I close on that next Friday. So next week I will be back in Illinois. Actually, I leave tonight. And I'll close for next Friday morning here. So as of next Friday morning, I'll be an official Shreveport resident. So pretty excited about that. Melissa will be joining me the 10th. And look forward to introducing all of you to her. Next month, I know we don't really have a whole lot planned, but I'm planning kind of an event, a kickoff, if you will, for 2019, really just to kind of launch our year. But I really want to hit the ground running, but also, celebrate 2018. You guys work hard, tie it into the holiday a little bit, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be here, share the message, get you guys on board so we hit the ground running. I'm going to ask that you bring your spouse, your significant other, or your friend if you'd like. We'll have kind of a holiday social, if you will, with it too. So Christmas season, if you will, event. And let's celebrate Team Shreveport, okay? So, with that, everybody's got their agenda. First and foremost, we have Brian Shelton with R3 Bunzel here to talk with Jerome. Well, to talk about, I'll let him talk about what he needs to talk about. Brian, welcome.
I'd like to thank Melissa for squeezing me in for a few minutes. My name is Brian Shelton. I'm with R3. For those you don't know me, I handle basically all your non-food items, like your disposables, paper towel, tissue, you name it. So I'd like for you guys to think of me when you need some help or you want to ride with. I'm always available. I'm in for you guys. So just call me and I'll be happy to go with you anytime. But I'm here today because there's been a change with the straws and cutlery program. Previously D&W was the preferred supplier, which was sold through R3. And some of you may know we've had some issues like production, supply issues, and this went on and on and on. And corporately, there was a decision that was made, and then we brought in a new supplier. Your new supplier is Nutribond. They're going to be doing your EV brand and ProPack. And so one thing you need to know about Nutribond is it is an import, but they're an ISO brand, meaning they've been they have standards, they've met standards when you import product to the quality, the size of the straws and the cutlery. They don't cut corners on the case pack. A lot of what you see out there, you're gonna see imports. And I know especially in the ethnic market, sometimes they're selling 800 or 900 pieces of cutlery. They're selling 7,000 or 8,000 straws instead of 10,000, or short packing it. But this Nutribond, ISO certified, you're gonna get what it says. The quality's gonna be there, the weight's gonna be there. That's why we're going with Nutribond. First, if you'll just take out the straw and stir pamphlet, the third page, these are going to be all of the straws that are available to you on the third page. It has your item number, my item number, the description, case pack, G10, weight, cube, all of that. These are what are available to you on page 3. Now, let's turn to page 4, and this is what is on this page. These are your old items that are crossing over to your new item numbers. So there's some new ones, and then there's all the old ones are going to the new numbers as well. So your old numbers may start with 1114, it's going to a CA 158. All of them are going to start with CA, and these are going to be in your EB ProPack brand. And then you look, you got a description, you got a case pack. Any questions? All right, I'm trying to go through this. The last page, you have this. This is what's brought into Shreveport for those. If you have any questions, you can go through here. You can see Shreveport, the old D&W number, and then it goes to the Nutribond number with the case pack and description. So we've actually been able to cross over a couple of items into one SKU. So that's a good thing. Now we still have a little bit of inventory with D&W that we're working through, but we have these straws from ProPack in stock, and they should be transitioning in as we right now. So what? I don't know the answer to that actually. Chris would probably check with your buyer. I think they tried to match the program and the pricing with all of these, but I don't know that, Jimmy, specifically. All right, one more thing on the straws, this little pamphlet. Basically, this is a good tool. Turn to the page 2, and you'll have the diagrams of the diameter and the length. So when you're out there, and sometimes somebody wants a jumbo or a giant or a fat, which kind of translates to a tapioca, where they suck the berries through the drink. That's just a big straw. You can see your diameters here on the side. And it gives you, like stirs, 5.5 inches. 7 1/4 is probably your most common straw, jumbo, but there's 7 1/4 giant, 10 1/4 giant as well. And then it has your items here with your item number in the middle here, so you can match them. This is a good little frame of reference for when you're out there and the customer doesn't know if they want giant or jumbo. You can actually show them how big the circumference, the diameter is of the straw. And also, there's color codes. Like bars typically do black. There are restaurants that do like red or white, and they color code them. So you have colors available to you with these items. And anything you need, if you need a sample or you need me to go make a call to a customer, a difficult customer, I'm happy to do that. Very happy to do samples. I'll send them anywhere.
I'll meet you in a baseball parking lot.
Yeah, meet you in a baseball parking lot and, do a trunk-to-trunk deal. It's kind of a little shady, but no. Whatever I need, Jesse, whatever I need to do, I'll do. I'll get you samples, I'll get you cases. We're going to take care of the customer. That's my #1 priority. Any questions? All right, moving right along. Let's go to the cutlery. This one right here. All right, same thing with your cutlery. We moved those over from D&W to Nutribond. I'm gonna explain a little bit difference toward the end here between polypropylene and polystyrene, but on the third page, these are all the cutlery and cutlery kits that are available to you through Nutribond and your EB ProPack brands. Same thing, description, all the specifics. Now on the fourth page, these are all your item numbers that are transferring over to the new item number on page 4 of your cutlery. So we've consolidated some SKUs, but the CA number prefix is going to be all of your Nutribond item numbers.
These on the first page that are available, do they all have RFS item numbers available, or is that gonna have to be set up?
Well, I think that you have probably 10 or 11 SKUs for cutlery actively, but I can set all these up and bring these in for you.
It's on there, I didn't see that.
All right. Guys, your cutlery, you have basically 3 platforms. You've got the distinctions, which are your extra heavy, premium, they're black and silver. Those are for your upscale restaurants. They even put a guideline, meals that are to go $20 or more. Typically, you look at the distinctions line. You've got the originals, which is your medium, heavy to heavy line, and then you've got your foundations, which is your light, medium weight, your price grabber. Those are your 3 distinct, or your 3 ProPack brands. The last page on this is what we convert, what we're bringing into Shreveport. Always the last page on these, I basically put what we're bringing into Shreveport, so you'll know as your item numbers, and those are the items that we're bringing into Shreveport. Again, I can bring in anything you need, provided that it's approved through the right people, and we can get samples of these that are not on this list that we brought into Shreveport. Just let me know. I'm happy to do anything we need to do to take care of a customer. Does anybody have any questions? All right, last page, this right here. All right, what's important is the types of, there's a polypropylene and a polystyrene. Your polypropylene is your foundations and your originals. The polypropylene, you can take, this is the way to think of it, you can take them and bend them. Their polypropylene is the lesser expensive resin, and you see those in like your fast food, mom and pop, kind of, the inexpensive meals, Chinese food, uses polypropylene. And then you would move to your polystyrene, which is your rigid plastic. It cracks, it breaks, very strong. You would use it in a scenario where you've got to cut meat and it hold and not break. So your polypropylene is going to be your inexpensive line. Your polystyrene is going to be your line where you've got a little more work to do. Just think of cutting meat, fish, or pork. You're going to need a heavier, you're going to need a firmer utensil. So that's what this is basically describing, is the difference between polypropylene and polystyrene. I know many of you know that, but I know there's some newbies in here. And any questions? So back at the final page here, this is your useful tool for your cutlery. This right here has all your item numbers for your cutlery in your program, and then if you look across, it has basically, if it's polystyrene, polypropylene, it tells you if it's white or black, it tells you if it's medium or heavy, extra heavy, and it also has a category for wrapped or unwrapped. So it gives you the full description so that you know from A to B to C to D what this pack looks like, what the kit looks like, and if it's wrapped or not wrapped. This is going to be a useful tool that you want to keep as well when you're in front of a customer and they're asking about a pack that maybe you don't have or maybe that you're selling. So that's why I included that. Anybody have any questions? All right, I think that's it.
Thank you, Brian.
I needed to let you guys know, oh, the cutlery program will start, we've got it on order. The cutlery is a little bit behind the straws. It starts around November 17th. We're gonna start transitioning that from the D&W line over to the Nutribond, but your straws is happening right now as we speak. That's all I got. You're welcome.
Any questions for Brian? All good? Hey, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. We have Jerome from Acosta here to share a few things. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Bad news is I have a 27-page PowerPoint presentation. Good news is we're not using it. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about your Tricero tea. Tricero is your Imer brand private label tea. Okay? It is considered one of the anchor products. Okay? You can get the tea in the restaurant. It keeps you in that restaurant. Okay? It is an anchor product. They've changed the tea up a little bit. They've gone to a loose leaf. Okay? Gives you a little stronger flavor. That's one of the comments we got. The tea wasn't quite strong enough. Okay? So you're going to see that. And I have this little brochure for y'all after this because since we're in college, we're having a pop quiz. So, I got Reese's. Can anybody tell me the difference between a green tea and black tea plant? We got somebody in the audience over there. Woo. What's that? I'm sorry? We got a winner.
There you go. Yeah.
He's exactly right. The black tea goes through a fermentation process, turns it black.
This is the future chef, by the way. You guys will be selling him soon.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, that's one of your future customers. I better pass out cards. Whereas the green tea is pan fired or steamed, keeps it green. Okay, that is the only difference. Don't raise your hand. Orange Pico, what does that refer to? Anybody? Has nothing to do with flavor. Do you know? Orange Pico. All right, Orange Pico is just a cut of tea plant, okay? It's a grading system. Orange Pico is a grading system. So if somebody asks you, Orange Pico, does it taste like orange? Nothing to do with it, okay? So, herbal teas. What percentage of black tea goes in herbal teas? Zero. Pass it down. There is no black tea in herbal tea. There is no caffeine. You can't drink herbal tea to calm down before going to bed if you got caffeine in it. Okay? So it's just a little touching point with your customers. Good chat. All right. You heard the boss talk about profits, okay? It's also important to your restaurant owners, okay? So we have a $40 case of tea. Let's say 30% of that is refills. How much profit is there in a $40 case of tea? Give me a number. Dollars. $150? How much?
He said 400.
So, keep going.
It's more than that.
No, the entire case, how much profit?
4,000.
Close.
$1, Jerome.
All right. Everybody gets a present. It's a consolation prize. Gets you answered something. $2,000 for $40 case of tea. $2,000 in profit. Okay, it is going to be your #1 profit product in most restaurants. If not, it's the #2. So if they're not selling tea, they need to be selling tea. Okay. What I've done is I've brewed up both the peach and the mango tea. All right. Other than black tea or regular tea, what is the #1 flavored tea? No, flavored tea. Somebody said peach. All right, pass it down there. All right, I saved this one for last because if y'all don't get it right, I get to eat it on the way home. All right, what is the #2 flavored tea?
Raspberry.
Mango. I wrote in Mardi Gras. Yeah, number two flavored tea. So I have both of those out there for y'all to try. If you're gonna find a stronger flavor, please reach out there and test the tea, try it out. If you need samples, not a problem. We usually have some at the office. If not, I can certainly arrange for some. Okay? Any other questions? All right. I'm done.
Fantastic. Brian? You're up, buddy. So, what a fitting day with the Certified Angus program, the talk about helping our customers, being the type of rep that you need to be. It's a point of difference. And also leaving your mark on the industry, particularly our company here. So today, got a unique opportunity to bring someone back with us. He's with the company a long, long time. True sales professional, a legend, a legacy within our company. So if I could, Randy, if you please join us. Something we should have done the right way the first time. I'm glad and honored to have the privilege, in appreciation to you, Randy Pace. Thank you for 45 years of service that you gave to our company. You made each of us better just by knowing you, from the company, employees here at Reinhardt. So thank you. Then we also have Ben here. I'm sorry, Randy.
Another Randy.
When I throw it over, I'm getting serious.
So he represented Certified Angus Beef on the street, and in honor of that, we appreciate what you did, but we want you to have this nice up.
All right.
All right.
Randy, anything you'd like to say or share?
Words of wisdom for us.
Well, I believe in the brand. Started out in this business in '69. I've watched the development of the brand. Number one thing is it was the first USDA certified brand established. And what a lot of people don't know is that for the next 20 years, there was only 10 more programs established. The 14 years after that, there was 149 established. So it shows the impact of being the best, what it did to the industry. It changed the industry.
Well, again, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Brian,
Appreciate you, Brad.
Well, I'm glad everybody got here today, and I hope that we're all attentive and all walk away with something today. I hope that another thing that we realize the opportunity that we have. Randy Whittemore, Ben Bozeman, Robert Neely come in, spend time with us to reinvigorate our CAB program, which Randy Whittemore and Randy Pace, along with Paul LeVar, kind of kicked this thing off, what, about 15 years ago now? And kind of died off and has come back, and now's the time to reinvigorate it. We're in an era in our industry that brands are important. Here we have an opportunity to go to market with a branded beef item. which would differentiate us among our competitors and actually even within the walls of Reinhardt Food Service. So we have an opportunity that we need to take advantage of. We're gonna see some things that we hadn't seen before. We'll see a lot of things that we'll be reminded of. And it'll arm us with the tools that we need to go out there and battle some of these other Angus programs that pretend to be what we have, and some of those generic programs that are just out there. You'll learn why it's a few cents more. You'll learn how to differentiate it. You're gonna learn what's in the box, where those mussels come from, and what they're used for. Also, I've got TJ that has come up to help us from New Orleans. I think they alluded to you will be helping us on
Yeah,
next
probably
year.
about 30% of my time will be out here, so should be good. So I'll be a good liaison for you guys.
Great, so that's added help, and along with the support that we'll get from CAB, and you'll see that support filter down to the operators, where you don't have that with other brands. So we'll be able to utilize that. They're gonna cover the licensing portion also, which will be very important before we leave this room today. So with that said, do you have anything, Randy?
Yep.
Randy Whittemore, CAB Certified Angus Beef.
Good morning. Let me plug in here, just to make sure we don't run out of juice. They've got a little different connection than what I have. So, you know, I was at a seminar here a couple of weeks ago, and the thing that I heard in the seminar was talking about millennials. Yeah, I see what you got.
That's why we have millennials.
You got these little clips, safety, child safety deal. I don't have to work those. But the seminar that I was at was actually, I was in it, and they got us up on stage and they said, okay, we want you to answer these questions. And they had a group of people my age, and then on the other side, they had a group of people y'all's age. And they asked them questions like, what does opie, what does that mean to you? That group didn't know. But my group knew all about it. Andy Griffin, that's right. We knew all about it. Well, then they asked us some of the things that they might know with all the technology. And I was clueless. But the whole point was things are changing. Things are changing. Brian mentioned the changing in the beef industry. There's 10,000 baby boomers retiring a day. A day. He must be one of them. he must be fast approaching. So, for the students in the room, you need to understand that I've been in the business for 40 years, and it's supported me and my family. It's been very good to me. Okay, it can be very good to you, but the stuff that you're going to see today, you have to embrace it, and you have to be the best. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about excellence. You can't just fill a spot. That goes back to the sales force. You can't just go out and make the call. I know that as far as you guys are concerned here at Reinhardt, I know that you compete with others that have the CAB brand. I know that. But you compete with a lot more that have all of their beef. Okay, so having certified Angus beef narrows down your competition tremendously. And then what does it come up to? Who's the best? Comes up to who's the best. It's not price. It's not price. We can talk about price, and we will, because that's one of the sales objections that we'll discuss later on. But at the end of the day, if you're the best and you bring the most to the table, they're going with you. They're going with you. Why? Because you can save them. So I want to tell you just a little story before we get started. I went into an account, actually wanted to go into the account, and the distributor called and said, no, don't, we just got the dry goods. We just got the dry goods, and we don't want you messing anything up, because they know I'm a hard charger. I'm not selling dry goods. I'm selling beef. And if you sell anything other than CAB, I'm coming at you and I'm coming at you hard. With everything. Not pulling any punches. Zero. Okay, so if you sell select beef, that's my competition. If you sell choice beef, that's my competition. If you sell prime beef that's not CAB, that's my competition. My job is to go out and sell brand. So anyway, they told me don't go in there, and I thought, I represent the brand. You just made me want to go more. So I marched right straight down there, and I went into the place, and I kind of had seen the guys in my hometown, one of the better-known steak places in the whole state. The owner comes walking by, it's morning time. He's walking, he's fast-paced. You know how the restaurant business is. They're in a hurry, they're always in a hurry. He comes walking by and he says, can I help you? Of course, I had on my CAB shirt. I'll say Certified Angus Beef shirt. It's very important that we get that right. Okay, so it's not Certified Angus, it's not Angus, it's Certified Angus Beef. He walks by and he said, you know, I don't have time. I really don't have time. I said, okay. I said, well, here's my card. He turned around and he bolted. He wasn't gone a second and a half. And he popped back around the corner. He said, you're going to come right back, aren't you? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I'll give you 30 minutes. 30 minutes and that's all. Now, some of the things that I'm going to tell you about, we're going to study these step by step. But as I was following him in a fast trot down the hall, I said, can we go in your meat cooler? Oh, it was like an insult to him. He was like, you got 30 minutes. I said, okay. I just need to know where you're at here. So we walked in the meat cooler and I said, okay, I see what I'm looking at. And he said, what? And I said, well, your menu says prime, and most of this is not prime. He said, son, I've been buying from this man since 1957. I was here when my dad had the business and blah, blah, blah. And I said, and I'm sure he's a great guy. All I'm saying is this is not prime. And he wanted to argue. And I said, I worked for a packer for 5 years. I can tell you why it's not prime. It says it right here. This tells you what it is. He didn't know. He didn't know. The salesman didn't know enough to tell him, hey, look, this is different. This guy was, I live in Alabama now. This guy was getting his product from Chicago to Alabama. From Chicago to Alabama. So I went through the whole process of Certified Angus Beef, quick as I could in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, he said, tell me more. So 2 hours later, he said, will you come back to my office? And I said, sure. And he said, look, he said, I'm going to put you over here. I got something for you. He had brought a chef in, put me in a little office to myself. He came over there and he gave me a stick of invoices about that tall. And he said, I need you to help me. And I said, okay. I just flipped through there and went, okay. Here's what I would do if I were in your shoes. We switched that day. All the business. Major steakhouse. One of the largest in the state. The next day, that distributor called me and said, he wants to see you again. Can we come? I said, sure. Sure. From that point forward, that salesman that was in that area, he said, and the district manager, said, anytime you want to come to any of my customers, you just call me and I'll go with you. But we had that business locked up until he sold the business. So, that's the power in the brand. Like I said, I've been in the business for a long time, and I've sit in the seats right where you're at. To be honest, the first time I saw it, and I hope this doesn't happen today, the guy was an animal science guy, which is kind of who we are, but we're a marketing company. And the guy put me sound asleep. All the science was just mind-boggling. I'm a meat guy. I just need it in normal, simple terms so I can understand. So that's what I'm going to try to do for you today. So with that said, we haven't got to look at this on the screen, but we're going to try to, hopefully, see if this works.
Certified Angus Beef brand. The best beef available in the world. Each steak, a journey from ranch to table. Grown on natural grasslands, nourished by wholesome grains, and guided by dedicated cattlemen and women. Consistently delivering the highest quality, best tasting beef. A mouth-watering experience every time. Being the best Angus brand doesn't just happen. It's by design. No smoke, no mirrors, just great beef. The Certified Angus Beef brand. Founded in 1978 by the American Angus Association, with members from Maine to Montana, California to the Carolinas, touching every state in between, and led by a board of Angus breeders. The Certified Angus Beef brand begins on the ranch, where raising cattle is more than a living. It's a way of life. It's about family, a heritage handed down from generation to generation. They're caretakers of the cattle, stewards of the land, builders of the Angus breed. The passage continues along a network of partners, from feeders to packers and distributors, ensuring brand integrity every step of the way. The Certified Angus Beef brand, trusted by consumers. The culinary leader, selected by retailers and served around the world. Renowned for incredible marbling and the highest standards. The Certified Angus Beef brand. Consumers know the difference. It's the most recognized, the most trusted, the most enjoyed premium brand of beef anywhere. Angus, a breed above all others. The Certified Angus Beef brand, a cut above the rest. Based on science, backed by research. Marbling, maturity, and tenderness standards that guarantee a memorable dining experience. Preferred and enjoyed by consumers time after time. Flavorful, tender, and juicy Certified Angus Beef brand. Trusted by America's beef experts. From rancher to you and your family. Truly, Angus beef at its best.
So you may look at that and you may say, yeah, but not my customer. I can already tell you that's too high. It's going to be that's going to cost too much. Well, that's kind of what this is about. This is to show you that we can battle that too high concept, because not everybody's going to buy tenderloins. Not everybody's going to buy ribeyes. And Ted mentioned it earlier, and I don't know if anybody caught it, but I caught it because I'm very sensitive to it. He wants to sell the whole thing, all of it. Okay, so we're talking about a high quality product. And we start talking about the end cuts, which we're going to talk about extensively as we start to put the animal back together with Ben and Robbie. But what the price difference in those is not much. Not much. From the very top to the very bottom. And that's kind of critical. So I want to just talk to you just a little bit about this. Because we talked about price. That came up. It's about price. No, it's about taste. It's about taste. If you want a cheap protein, and that's what we're talking about when we talk price. If you want a cheap protein, what's the cheap protein? How about eggs? That's pretty cheap. Give them an egg. Okay? How about, okay, we don't want eggs. This is a breakfast food. We want something different. Okay. What else can we get that's cheap? Pork chop. Pork chop. How about a pork butt? Let's give them that. Okay, what about chicken? Okay, there's something to all of those, and there's a place for all of those. But if you want something really good, the king is beef. That's where it's at. Okay, so why? Well, let's just look at this, because I don't want you to take my word for it. Because this price thing, I've not sold you on that. Some of you guys are seasoned veterans, and you're sitting there going, yeah, I hear it. I've heard this 1,000 times. Well, this will be 1,001. Okay? But I want you to take a look at this pyramid. Because to me, the proof's in the pudding. And if I show you the facts, don't argue with me or what I'm saying. Argue with the facts. Because the facts don't lie. Okay? So this pyramid, when I came to Certified Angus Beef 16 years ago, this pyramid was broke down. Basically, this is the meat mound in the United States. We harvest around 650,000 head of cattle each week as an industry. That's what we do in these United States. Okay? The USDA keeps up with how they grade out because we got to feed the masses. Not only do we got to feed all these steakhouses, but we got to feed nursing homes, we got to feed schools, we got to feed all the fast food places. That's where this beef comes from, right there. Okay, that's fed cattle in the United States. What I want to show you is this number right here, 24%. That's the low. That's select, and we're going to look at the different levels of marbling in just a minute. But I want you just to look at the pyramid. 24% of all cattle is right here. That's the USDA. That's not Randy. 16 years ago, that thing was at 45%. If that's what everybody wants, if they want the cheapest, why aren't we making more of that? Why is that thing going down instead of, or going up instead of down? Why is that? It's cheaper. It's price. And it's way lower. When it comes to steaks, this ain't a little bit lower. It's way lower. Why don't we just keep selling it? Because the consumer's saying, no, that's not what we want. We'll look at ourselves here in just a minute as far as Certified Angus Beef. But see this number right here? That number and that number and that number are all growing. Wonder why that is. It goes back to that other slide, taste. Now, I used to come in here and I used to tell you guys this stuff, but that thing has been changing 5% every year since I got to CAB, but this last year, it really dropped. 24% down from 45. We're talking about nearly a 50% drop in select beef production. You don't think the cattle ranchers in this country, they get paid on what they make? If they were making money here, they'd be making a bunch more of it, because it's easy. You don't have to do nothing to it. To make this up here, that's hard. That's hard. But they get paid more for it, so it's like, okay, that's what I want to do. To be honest, the argument about price is over right now. It should stop right here. But there's more. This is a graph. We've actually been keeping up with this. This is what we do. We keep up with things. Okay, so the blue line is select beef. You can see it up here. It's select beef. You see how it's trending down? But look at this. This is prime and branded beef. Upper short. That's what we're talking about. Look at where this thing's going. That's 3 years ago. It crossed in 3 years ago. So now we're selling more of the good stuff than we are the bad stuff. So, if you're out there selling select beef, that's okay. But according to this, and according to the previous slide, you're headed down a dead-end road. So your competition, that guy that you compete with, he's going to go in there, and at some point, he's going to go, let me help you get your business better. And he's going to switch them over to something better, and you're going to lose that business. I would suggest that you start looking at this. Maybe it's not the right cut that you're looking at if it's too high. What I would say is start looking at this a little bit harder, okay? Our heritage. We're a not-for-profit company. You heard that in the video. We're actually owned by the American Angus Association. We actually don't own any cattle. We never take ownership. We don't buy any cattle. We've got lots of brochures over here for you. I know some of you guys got stress gears and all that kind of stuff. That's what we do. But the main thing that we do, as far as what I do, is train people. That is the most valuable thing that we do. Okay, now we have this beef that we went to the USDA and said, look, we need you to grade this beef at this quality level, and we'll go out and sell it. It's a great story. It's a great story. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. It's just our heritage. We're owned by the American Angus Association. We're a not-for-profit subsidiary of them. That's our mothership, if you would. Cattle ranchers, that's our partners. And you think, well, that's, yeah, the guy with the 2,000 acres. Do you know, and we've got this over there in brochures for you, the average cattle producer in the country has around 42 head of cattle. That's average. So I'm not going to say there's not a 2,000 head ranch out there? Because there are. They're out there. Actually, some right here in Louisiana. But the average one is 42 head. The average one you drive by on the way here. You see them. You see those black animals out there. When we started in 1978, 15 to 17% of the cattle population was black. Today, it's over 60%, it's over 62%. In the next 10 years, it'll probably be close to 70, 75%. Why? Because there's money there. There's a whole lot of science that goes into the genetics behind these things. Now, I want you to take a look at one of our cattle ranchers, just so you can kind of get a taste of who we're talking about.
I think our farm is a rough piece of art. As we go along, we're just all masterpiece.
Yon Family Farms is a registered Angus operation in central South Carolina, and we have had the privilege and blessing of raising 3 wonderful children alongside of us to get to take care of God's creation and to have taught our children an appreciation for the land and the cattle.
And the neat thing is our children have actually got to grow up with our farm. You know, I take our responsibility of raising quality beef for the people of this country and across this world very seriously.
Certified Angus Beef to me is the easiest product in the world to stand behind. You know, I really feel good about it because I know that the consumer is going to have an opportunity to have an awesome eating experience.
I'm just so proud to be a part of the Certified Angus Beef brand. It's a brand that I feel ownership in.
So there's cattle ranchers just like that here in Louisiana, in Texas, in Mississippi, and we've actually got books on them, actually catalogs, that show these guys. They actually partner up. Just like you guys would see, if you're familiar with the AKC with dogs, there's different breed associations. Well, that's kind of what the American Angus Association is. It's just for cattle. There's close to 30,000 of them nationwide. Okay? There's actually, and we actually was part of this, but in Monroe, Louisiana here maybe 3 years ago, they had a convention over there for the Junior Angus Association. I had no idea because that's kind of out of my ball game. But they contacted us for product to serve at this thing. It was pretty big. And I will tell you that they had the kids there, because it's all high school kids, they actually did a video, a mock-up video about Certified Angus Beef, and it was YouTube, and it got all kinds of views. It was crazy. It's crazy. So the web of this thing is huge. It's not just you selling it. What you see up here is our founders. This is the guys that came up with the idea. The guy right here, Harold Etling, he went to Chicago and he saw Angus on a menu. He raised Angus cattle, and he got a bad steak. And he said, this is going to kill the breed. He was part of the breed association at the time. And he said, this is going to kill what we're trying to do. You have to be able to go get a good steak. And so he came up with this plan. He's a retired businessman at this point in his life. He came up with this plan. 1 page. 1 page. He came up with this plan that we needed a branded beef program of some type. Something that would separate us. It needed to be something about that stood for quality. You need to be able to grade beef. You need to be able to get it in a box. And then, but not just that. You need to be able to go sell it and promote the benefits of it, but then you needed to track every pound. He got all this on 1 page, and he mailed it into the American Angus Association. Those 4 guys met. That's the founder of Certified Angus Beef. This is Dr. Bob Van Stavern. He's the guy that came up with the 10 science-based specifications for Certified Angus Beef that are still in place today. We'll talk about those specifications. But it all started right here, and it actually started in a living room, around a table, eating brownies that Mick Colvin's wife was serving them while they talked about how do we get this thing going. And the program actually nearly failed the first 4 years. And in the 4th year, the American Angus Association got together and they said, okay, we're going to put a little bit of money into this. If it doesn't make it this year, and it's over. And it took hold. It took us 22 months to sell the first 1 million pounds. Today we'll sell 1 million pounds about every 3 hours. And here's the thing, we don't sell it. This is what we do. You know who sells it? You guys. Once you believe in the brand, it's kind of of like you see Randy. Does he believe in the brand? Absolutely, he believes in the brand. And that's what we have, and we have it all over the world. We're actually in 44 different countries. So, when we started, Angus demand for cattle had been dropping. Actually, beef had been dropping. There was an influx of continental breeds into the United States. Those breeds were meant to get cattle bigger, and we did it. But it was without regard to what was happening to the inside of the animal, how it was going to eat. So, beef demand dropped. Chicken consumption went up at the same time, okay? You can see this is our mission statement, and if you read it, it goes right back to that one-page letter. That's what's amazing to me, is how this guy came up with this plan, and it worked to a T. So, this is our sales. And as you see, this is actually an old chart, but it kind of shows you where our sales are at. The reason I show you this last year, we grew by 100 million pounds. Did I tell you we're not the cheapest? Did I mention that? We're not going to be the cheapest. We're never going to be the cheapest. We're higher. The reason I show you this chart is not to brag on ourselves. The reason I show you this chart is I want to show you this. You see that little bubble right there? That's what's kind of cool to me. We've had 15 years of successive growth. But that bubble is the one that I'm most impressed with. It goes back to 2008. What happened in 2008? Tanked, didn't it? It tanked. And nobody had no money. We grew by 20% that year. And we're the most expensive. We grew by 20% when nobody had no money. Why is that? Taste, quality. People started going, wait a minute. If I'm going to eat beef, I want the best beef. If I'm going to pay for it, it needs to mean something. And it works. And it works. So, how do we guarantee the highest quality? Well, first, and Randy mentioned this, we were the first ones. There were no other brands, and they've been growing steady. We have access to 85% of the cattle supply. So, of the folks at Reinhardt, how many other Reinhardt houses are actually licensed to sell certified Angus beef?
0. Just this one.
Well, that didn't take long. 0 is right. You guys are it. You guys are it. Well, there's other brands, and there's nothing wrong with those other brands, but what I would tell you is that on those other brands, for instance, I was asked last night, what about Sterling Silver? It's actually a good program. It is a good program. It's different, and we have to know the differences, but one of the differences is they come from one packer. So the availability on Sterling is limited, very limited. Okay? With Certified Angus Beef, we have multiple packers licensed. Actually, 85% of the packer base is licensed to make the product. It's a standard. So that if Tyson doesn't have it, your buyer can actually get it from Cargill, the one that makes Sterling Silver. Okay? You can actually get it from National. So there's multiple outlets for you to go to so that you're not short. You shouldn't be short because the product's out there. Okay? This just tells you about how the cattle are growing. Like I said just a while ago, there's more black cattle today than there's been ever before. And it just keeps increasing. Why? Because of the exacting standards of the 10 specifications. We're going to look at those in great detail in just a minute. Only 20% of the cattle herd, actually less than 20% of the cattle herd, actually going to make the brand. We're going to look at that too. I think this wall here is actually affecting my pointer because it's not clicking. I'm going to have to stand back here for you guys. Here's our 10 specifications. They're listed in order of importance from most important to least important. We actually have sales brochures. We have that on it. Many of you have seen this already. We're going to talk about each one of those specifications because they all mean something. However, and I want to see this, how many of us from Reinhardt actually downloaded the app onto our cell phone? I'm liking it. I'm liking it. We're going to go through that in a little bit because the information on there, if you'll play with it just a little bit, is all you need. You'll never go into a customer not prepared. Do You just gotta know what's in his cooler. We're gonna talk about that as well. Okay? So we have a tracking system in place. We're actually the only brand out there that tracks every pound of product. For instance, I had a guy that said, called me up. I was actually in a meat director's office. It was a retail call, but I went in there and I said, look, we were talking business, and he said, Randy, he said, hang on just a second, I got a call. And I said, okay. And he picked up the phone and he said, well, matter of fact, he's sitting right here. Let me let you talk to him. And it was an irate customer. And he was mad because somebody had gotten certified Angus beef at his location and they were not happy with it. And it was his favorite customer, of course, they're all his favorite. But when he just went to chewing me out. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what I can find out. At the time, I didn't have, this was many years ago, I did not have the tools that we have today. Today it's a little bit different. So I said, well, let me get back to you. He said, hang on just a second. He put the customer on the phone. And she went to get him. And I said, well, hang on just a second. So I hung up with them, and I called our office, and I said, look, I need you to look this unit up. It's at this location. I need you to tell me what he's buying. They looked up. They said, okay, Randy, he's not bought in 3 months. I said, that's the information I needed. I called him back, and I said, here's the problem. See, you're not buying our brand, and you just ran off my customer. See, that's not just your customer. That's my customer. And he said, Randy, we're buying the brand. I see it. It's on every package back there. And I said, that's a problem. And he said, why is that a problem? And I said, you need to go look in the cooler. He said, I'm going to get on my cell phone. I'll call you right back. He went to the cooler. He's looking through the cooler. He said, Randy, I'm sitting here looking at your logo on every box. And I said, really? And he said, yes. He said, got it on every package in my meat counter, and it's on every box. And I said, read me the label. Now, this is somebody that's trained. He's trained. You guys run into these same people. You work with them. And I said, read me the box. And he said, oh, my goodness. He was just frustrated. I can't believe he's going to make me read this. I'm sitting here looking at it. It says Black Canyon Angus Beef. And I said, read it again. He went, Black. That's not you. I said, no, that's not me. I said, we got a problem. I said, you got my stuff all over the place. You're advertising. And you're killing my brand for all the restaurants, all of our partners everywhere. You've ruined your best customer because you told her she was getting something she wasn't getting. How can we fix this, is what he said. How can we fix this? I said, well, you got to get that going. My stuff has to come down until that's out of here. He said, when can you come over and train us? I said, well, how did this happen? Do you have a new employee? I hired a new market manager about 3 months ago. I said, yeah, he's saving you a nickel, and he's costing you your business. Today, that's one of the largest buyers of certified Angus beef in the state of Georgia. Okay, so it's just a learning process. This is our tracking system. You can kind of see how it goes. It starts with packing plants, goes on down to distributors, and then actually to restaurants and to stores. But we track it all the way at every section. So the packer actually sends us the data that he sends to you, and then you send us the data that you send to the customer. So we can see it. If you have a customer that's buying CAB, today I don't have to call the office. Today we got these little snazzy apps that I can just pull up. Boom. I get to see how much pounds he's buying of every item, and I also get to see who he's buying it from. It's the coolest little thing. But it's amazing what technology can do for you today. How do we drive sales? It's a pull-through strategy. And this is kind of goes back to the very beginning. When I say pull-through, normally what we do is we push at the restaurant level. We push there. We push at the distributor level. We push there. Why? Because the more you buy, the more that packer has to make. The packer is who pays us. He pays us a commission to go out and teach you guys this. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you had a packer rep come in and do a training for you? Doesn't happen, does it? Never. Never. How are you supposed to know about beef? That's where we come in at. That's where we come in. We come in and we try to help you we're not trying to help you with just certified Angus beef. We want you to understand, I want you to get the business. Even if it is select, I want you to get the business. Just know that at some point, I want to see us go to certified Angus beef if we can, if it's possible. But I want you to get the business. The product satisfies the customer asks for more product back. You guys sell more product, the packer has to make more product. It's pulled through. I'm not going to the packer going, would you please put more in the box? Why would he want to put more in the box if he's having to pay us a commission? He's happy doing his thing. Well, we drive the price too. We drive that price up. Okay? Why? How do we do that? Demand. It just keeps growing. It's capitalism at its best. Our restaurant partners kind of push this deal. Okay, we've got one, and hopefully this afternoon we'll get to look at some video from him. How many of you guys have ever heard of the Taste of Texas in Houston? Have you been there?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
It's amazing.
Amazing. This guy's been on the brand, I don't want to steal too much from the video. He's been on the brand since 1983. He's only had one restaurant. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. He's top 5 restaurants in the country pulling steaks. Not for CAB. Top 5 in the country pulling beef. The guy goes through some meat. Lots. It's an experience to go see him. Actually, he's spoken at 2 or 3 of our conferences. He was actually at our office doing a talk with our partners internally here about 2 weeks ago. He is a wholehearted believer in the brand. Wholehearted. This is one of those Dr. Seuss things. This is all the brand lines, we call them brand extensions that we have. We have CAB Traditional. We have CAB Prime. We have CAB Natural. We have CAB Prime Natural. How many brands, you guys are familiar with brands, how many brands out there have a full line of ground beef? You aware of any? We do. We do. Full line. The #1 brand of beef on the planet has a full line of ground beef. If I told you that your competitors really don't sell a lot of ground beef, or the ground beef that they really focus on is not even a commodity, it's a private label brand, is that an easy target? Of course it is. That's a real easy target. Especially when you start talking about the price difference on grinds. And we'll do that. Anybody know what the price difference is on grinds? CAB ground beef to same equivalent of lean point. What's the price difference? Commodity versus certified Angus beef. Just give me an average. How much?
15 cents a pound.
There you go. 15 cents. So we'll talk about the quality level of grinds right after lunch. The certified Angus beef brand, it kind of came together as a perfect storm. This is that chart where we made cattle bigger and the meat didn't qualify. So what happened was we had a whole bunch down at the bottom, and then the chicken guys came in. But it wasn't just the chicken guys. I'm going to recommend a book. You guys like books. I'm going to recommend a book to you. It's called The Big Fat Surprise. Now, I didn't say it exactly like the title means it, but there was a war on fat in the 70s. And it was actually a war on beef. And beef was bad for you, and it was clogging up the arteries in your heart and all of that stuff. Well, the Big Fat Surprise book actually puts that to rest. So beef's actually not bad for you. I guess anything's bad for you if you eat enough of it. But it's not bad for you. And that marbling that we're going to talk about, that's actually the good fat. It's not the bad fat. It's the bark fat that's the bad fat, the stuff on the outside. That's the stuff that you don't want. That's why when you see most of the pictures in this video or in these shots, you're going to see it really trimmed. When you go to most of the grocery stores, you're going to see it really trimmed. What does that marbling do?
Flavor.
Gives it flavor. That's right, gives it flavor. So the USDA came in and they broadened the beef quality standards, and this is kind of important for you guys to understand because this is the backbone of how we started, but it's also the backbone of understanding the beef industry. It's a science. Now, this is the part that got me, and I'm going to try to, this is the part that I didn't really focus on. I'm a butcher by trade, and so this was kind of difficult for me to grab onto and hold. But hopefully we'll get through it without putting you guys to sleep. There's 3 things that make up taste. It's juiciness, tenderness, and flavor. Those three things. I see some of you guys taking notes, and that's a good thing. Did I mention that there's a test? TJ, is there a test?
There's a test.
There's a test. I forgot to tell you that.
There is one.
There is a test. So, it's important if you want to do good on the test. If you're not big on tests, you don't care, well, you'll see your grade. So, juiciness, tenderness, and flavor, those three things. Okay? Now, if you remember when Walmart first came out with beef in the meat counter, they had injected their product with a 10 to 12% solution of water and salt. The water was put in the beef for what? Juiciness. Juiciness. You put water in something, it's going to have juice in it. It's basically what we call pumped. Pumped product. And then when you put salt in it, why do you salt your food? Flavor. You put salt water in it, you get juice and flavor. When you bite into juice and flavor, you have the perception that it was tender, even though it wasn't. You'll chew it and chew it and chew it, and you'll think, well, but it was juicy, it tasted good. I mean, it had flavor, it had taste to it, but you're still chewing on it. How many of us have ever eaten a bite of steak, and when you get done, there's this thing in your mouth that it just didn't disappear, it's still there?
The more you chew, the bigger it gets.
You got a question? Oh, it's just stretching. I got you. This is like an auction. You raise that hand, I'm calling it. So this is the beef quality grade chart. This is very important. You can really forget it after today, but you need to understand it. That's the key. It's just understanding it. So if you look over to the left-hand side, what you're going to see is marbling score, and then across the top, you're going to see maturity score. Okay? And each one of those scores can be made up in segments. So you can see choice here has 3 scores. Small, modest, and moderate. Select has 1 score. Certified Angus Beef is only the top, modest degree of marbling and higher. Okay? And you'll see that Prime takes both A and B. Choice takes both A and B. Okay? The key here is understanding that this section right here, prior to 1976, this was all together. And it was called USDA what?
Good.
You're not supposed to be answering questions. It's okay. Now we all know though, right? It was called USDA Good. In 1986, some 10 years later, 87 actually, about 11 years later, they changed the name from Good to Select. Anybody know why they did that? That's exactly it. The beef industry is not hard. It's very easy. Okay, it sounds better. If we got 50% of the cattle going into this category, we have, no matter how many of these we want, we got a bunch of these out there, we have to sell them. So what are we doing when we change the name on that? To make it sound better. What is that?
Marketing.
Marketing. Bingo. He needs give him a mug out there. Excellent. He's jumping out there. That's what I want to hear. Yeah, don't get it. So these segments are actually broken out in increments, and this is how the USDA grader grades cattle. He steps in and he grades it. He starts here, and he's looking for marbling, and it's a slight 0 at the bottom, and it goes slight 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way to 99, and then it goes to the next score, which is small. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way to 99, the next score, which is modest. That's how they grade it. And when you're talking about age on an animal, you start right here, A maturity, and we'll see a slide in just a few minutes. It talks about this, but it starts right here at 9 months. And then as you get closer to B maturity, it's 9, 10, 11, all the way to 30 months. You hit 30 months, it goes to B maturity. So they keep up with the age and the marbling. Maturity and marbling. That's the 2 things that the USDA uses to grade beef. Now just to get ready for the test. How many does Certified Angus Beef use? It's a math question.
Any what?
How many things does USDA use to grade Certified Angus Beef? 10. And how many more is that than what the USDA uses for just grading commodity beef? 8. See, that's as hard as the math's going to get here. So, you got 3 grades: USDA Choice, USDA Prime, and USDA Select. Okay? Certified Angus Beef is not a grade; it's a brand. Okay? chart up here because I want to show you, you have to understand the brands. You have to understand that they're out there. 36 brands right here, 42 brands right here. What does that mean for this guy in this category? If he's buying, let's just say he's buying, you're selling him choice. You're selling him choice product. What's he getting in that box?
Beef maturity.
Could be. Could be beef. Doesn't have to be, but it could be. What he's getting, he's getting the lowest end of choice, which remember, this used to be part of this category. Okay?
Bottom two-thirds.
Well, it's just say the bottom of choice is what I would say. But the most important thing is, it's picked over. You think that packer's not pulling his stuff first and putting those other brands out there? Because most of the other brands belong to a packer.
Even within that small marbling, there's brands, small 50 brands that take out from that small marbling. So when you just buy regular choice, you can just see how much has been going on in that program.
There you go. Everybody understand that? So within each category, remember, small, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, there's a brand right here. I'm thinking of a brand. Anybody can read my mind right now? It's one of the more prominent brands out there that would be in the choice category. What's the name of it? Nope. Sterling Silver would be upper. Sterling Silver is here. Angus Pride. Angus Pride is a small 50 program. Okay? There's our specifications. Let's talk about marbling. Now, as we look at this, look how much marbling is here, and this is small choice, right? Small marbling. This is modest marbling, or modest marbling. Now, you may have customers that say, yeah, but I can't have that. That's too much fat. I can't do that. Or this. What is this? That's the flavor. How many of us in the room, and I usually have one or two, but how many of us like a dry baked potato? This is a dry baked potato. That's dry. That's dry. This is a baked potato loaded with cheese, sour cream, butter. It's the whole enchilada. Literally. So, you want the one with marbling. Who does this? It's the USDA. The USDA is the one that grades the beef. Does Certified Angus Beef have anything to do with that? No.
No.
What did we do? We gave them the standard. This is what we want in that Certified Angus Beef box. We don't do it. So when you call me up and you say, Randy, this doesn't look right, I didn't do it. I wasn't there. Okay, we can go back to them, and we're going to discuss how you do that too, so that your buyer has the information that he needs when something's not right. We're going to talk about, you can kind of see it here, I believe. Yeah, right there. We're going to talk about where these pieces and parts come from. And he's actually ribbing that between the 12th and 13th rib. That's what he's doing. And that's how you grade the animal. Okay? This is just kind of to help you guys understand, but what's he looking at when how many steaks is he looking at when he grades that thing? One. Yeah. So you could get halfway through and it'd be different, right? Okay, just as long as we understand that. This is not widgets. This is animals.
I thought they were doing like the laser.
They use a camera grader.
Camera grade.
Camera grader. Okay, so camera, and they have ultrasound too, but they're not going to use ultrasound. I mean, we're going to look at a packing plant video at the end of this, and it's going to kind of show that, but they're still just looking at one steak. It's just that one steak. They're looking at the marbling, but just so you know, this is the way it's been done for over 100 years, and this is a pretty good way of determining how that whole animal is going to be, is by looking at that marbling between that 12th and 13th rib. You can actually tell how the rest of the carcass is going to be just from looking at that, and the fat too that's going to go apart down the back. We'll talk about that in just a second. So the marbling is the little white flecks of fat. Everybody understands that, right? Okay, and those little white flecks of fat, I like to call them, for me, for my understanding, it's a low heat fat. Why do I say low heat? What do we tell restaurateurs, or what do we tell you when you go home about beef, when you're gonna cook it on the grill, what do we tell you to do with your steak prior to putting it on the grill?
Bring
Bring it up to room temperature. Bring it up to room temperature.
Let it get warm.
Let it get let it get that cool off of it. Why? Because that butter right there starts to work. It starts to work, and it's working for you. Okay? So, the marbling and effect on genetics. It's kind of like me playing basketball. Okay? I can play, but I can't play with the big boys. The genes just aren't there. Okay? It's the same way with marbling. It doesn't really matter how you feed them. There's some cattle that's never going to get there. That's where the Angus breed has just passed everything. Why? Because they started working on the genetics early. But what they found out is that Angus cattle tend to marble. This is very important. Remember the test. Angus cattle tend to marble at an early age. How does the USDA grade beef? Marbling and maturity. Remember? Marbling and maturity. Angus cattle marbling at an early age, maturity. That's pretty simple, isn't it? That's the advantage that the Angus cattle have. It's not that other cattle can't meet that marbling spec. It's that Angus cattle tend to do it quicker. Farmers like that. What else does a farmer like? And this is kind of on the farmer side, but what else do they like about Angus cattle? Docile. You can, they'll actually marble quicker. You don't have to feed them as long.
Right.
But here's one that I've noticed just in my family. I noticed this when me and my wife first got married. She would take screaming babies, and it's just like they went to her arms to be quiet. And I'm like, you know what? We need to get away from them. Put them over there. Not her. Very nurturing. That's her thing. Guess what Angus cattle do? They're great mothers. And they breed and have babies very well. It's kind of a natural deal. It's not good to have an animal that you can't breed and it has complications having the animal. That's not good. Or if you have a mother that doesn't want to take care of the little one, that's not good either. Or doesn't take really good care of the little one. These guys, a little different. They actually do it. They actually do it, and they do it very well. So, the nutrition part of this is what we talked about with the marbling not being a bad fat for you. It's actually good. It's going to give you the flavor. That's what you're looking for. That's what's going to help. That's what's going to make you eat it more. It's actually going to make it more tender. And the reason it's going to make, somebody tell me, just common sense, this is not hard. Why would marbling make the meat more tender? Why would that have anything to do with it? Oh man, that's excellent.
Well,
Breaks the tissue. It puts the marbling in between the muscle fibers. It makes it more tender. Okay, we're going to get away from the size of marbling. We don't want lightning bolts. We don't want lightning bolts. What we want is uniformity. We want sand. Little dots of sand all throughout. You'll see some of the bigger streaks, but for the most part, we want sand. That way, every bite is consistent from the front of the steak to the back of the steak, or from the front of the roast to the back of the roast. That marbling is actually going to come up extensively when we start talking about grinds. Okay? All right. Maturity. How do we tell about maturity? This is the way we used to tell about them pretty much solely. And we'd look at their backbone. And we'd look for the ossification. And that's kind of what this is showing you. As you see it get darker here, you know the animal's getting older. You see the white pin bones? I want you to think about this as just adults. Well, and we've got some younger people in the room. A lot of you guys are limber and you can touch your foot to your nose and bend over and touch your toes, but then ask somebody like me how that goes. I don't think we need laughter. Laughing's not what we need here. We're talking about me. But it's true. It's true. That's hard to do the older you get. But that's not what we look at today solely. We can also look at the muscle. See how the muscle gets darker as the thing gets away from the A maturity? Okay, and it matters. Just thought, just a thought. This guy's old. He's old, this guy's old. Where do they go? Grind. They go into ground beef. That's where they go.
Certified purpose.
No. We're not, we're gonna stick to the facts. I'd love to bash them too, but we're gonna stick to the facts. So, we're looking at the teeth now. We're looking at dentition. This is actually a more accurate way of doing it. So this just started about a year ago. So now we're doing dentition. If any of you guys were in the earlier sessions that I've done with you guys before, we didn't look at the teeth. It was out there, but that's not what we did. Today, Packers are switching to this. This comes back to what she said about the connective tissue. Okay? With the marbling being there, connective tissue shoots through there in those little circles, but guess what else happens? If you got amaturity, those fibers don't get to grow together as much. Okay? So whenever you bend over, for us that are older, and you feel that stretch, that means they're tightening up. They're getting harder. They're getting harder. When we're young, that's why you can take a baby and just bend him all over the place. You don't have none of that. Okay? Is that a bad thing? Take that off the video. So, I'm just picking, you don't have it. Then the ribeye circumference. We actually did this because as the Angus producers, we're figuring this breed out and understanding, look, we can actually raise this high quality beef and we can raise less animals. The beef started getting bigger and bigger. Okay, the cow started getting bigger and bigger. What does that do? That makes those ribs get bigger and bigger. And then what does your chef say? Too big. Too big. You're killing me. Now, we're going to look at ribeyes here in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this for just a second because it goes back to this spec of 10 to 16 square inches in circumference. What we're talking about is the heart of the ribeye. We're not talking about the spinellus. We're talking about that heart section right there. Okay, and you can kind of see it. The average ribeye goes anywhere from 16.5 inches in circumference up to 19.5 inches in circumference. That means that person, whoever's cutting it, whether it's a steak cutter like Beaver Street, you're going to have to do this. Thicker, smaller, based on, with Certified Angus Beef, because it's 16.5 inches, more consistent sizing or thickness of the steak. That means you're going to be able to cook it at a relevant, a more accurate time and get the right, correct doneness on that steak. That's but what if I get it used to be that they would be 11 and down. 11 and down means what? 11 pounds and down. That's right. And then it went to 13 and a half and down. Now I see it's 15 down.
You can get 16 down.
If you get it. Does it matter how much the thing weighs? Who said that? Who was that? Who said that? No.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't you?
No, wasn't me.
Well, somebody raise your hand. Okay. Get a treat of some sort. That was good. It doesn't matter how much it weighs because with Certified Angus Beef, it's just going to be getting longer. Okay, so the loin might be 2 extra steaks long. The reason I know this is not just this, but I actually talked to
Have any more loads? Got a hat.
There you go. Give him a hat.
Because of the circumference thing.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's the circumference spec. Okay, so I ran into a rancher down in Florida who had been in it since the 1950s. And he said, yeah, he said, since the 1950s, I've got a bull. You see that bull out there? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, how many acres you got here? He said, well, I got 500. He's right on I-75. He's got a billboard out on his interstate that sits in between his 2 pastures. And it says, Certified Angus Beef, what vegans eat when they cheat. How cool is that? But he said, Randy, he said, what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to make an animal that has a longer loin, because that's where the money's at. I said, well, how many cattle do you got? I mean, you've been in since 1955, and you're trying. That's great, but he said, well, I got 300. And I said, well, I don't does that pay the bills? 300 since 1950? I mean, I get it, but seriously, this land could be, you could build a mall out here. They actually asked me about that. And they said, but we're gonna do cattle. He said, Randy, I sell cattle to over 30 different countries. He said, everybody wants a piece of that bull. And he said, so he is changing the herd. Longer loins, more weight. The carcass weight. Comes back to what Ted said. We're not just worried about the ribeyes, we're not just worried about the tenders, but we're really worried about the whole animal. So the chucks and the rounds and those kind of things, you have to go, okay, wait a minute. What's the ramification on chuck? Well, we're keeping that animal less than 1,050 pounds. That chuck can only get so big. Okay? That round can only get so big. That actually helps you guys. Okay, that's what that's about. Back fat. What we know is on the back fat, right back here where they ribbon, what we know is so goes that back fat, so goes the rest of the fat throughout that animal. Seam fat. So you know, based on how we're grading that animal, that if that thing is over an inch, we really don't want him in the mix. Why? Why would it? And this is actually for the packers. Do you guys get in whole carcasses here? Round carcass? No. How about quarter carcasses? Pretty much subprimal's in it. Are they trimmed? Everybody do this, yes. Well, who pays for that trim?
Customer.
Yeah, actually, it ends up you pay for it, but the packer gets rid of it. At the very beginning, he's the one paying for it. So if he can get an animal that doesn't have to be trimmed much, he gets more money. Okay, that's where CAB comes in. Okay. So thick or a moderately muscled animal, what is that going to do? What are we looking for with that? An animal that doesn't have dairy influence. Why? Everybody's seen dairy animals. Do they look like beefy animals? Are they all muscled up? No. Why? Why can't you make them that way? No. What are they built for?
Milk.
Milk. And what are Angus animals built for? Beef. Two different genetics. Had a brother, actually, I guess it would be a cousin in Texas, and he was very interested in what I did. And I said, well, what do you do? This was when I first went to work for Certified Angus Beef. And he said, well, we're in the same industry. We're in the cattle industry. And I said, well, what part are you in? And he said, I'm a rodeo guy. He said, so I go out and get a lot of Brahmin and a lot of crosses. And he said, so I go out and I look for that guy that is about as mean as a snake. That's the one I want. And I said, really? He said, mm-hmm. We breed for that. It's like a pit bull in the cattle industry. And then we try to put people on them and see how long they can stay. But those guys are highly excitable. It's the exact opposite of what Certified Angus Beef is. It's kind of the same thing here. We don't want an animal that comes from the dairy influence. Why? Because they don't muscle properly. They don't muscle properly not only in the loin, but also in the chuck and in the round. The whole thing is not built for Certified Angus Beef. Okay, so, and we're going to talk about prime just a little bit. Certified Angus Beef is probably 50% of the prime category today. Do you know that 60% of what's left is dairy? CAB's 50% of prime today, and of what is left of prime, 60% is dairy influence. They marble well. They don't muscle well. Okay? They don't eat as well. They hold water well. Just think about the whole milk concept, and it kind of will soak in for you. So, Brahmin influenced animals 8 to 10 times more likely to be tough than Certified Angus Beef type cattle or Angus type cattle. They have an enzyme in them. The enzyme in them is called calpastatin. The enzyme in Angus beef is called calpain. Calpain. Do you guys age your beef?
Yes.
Good answer.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
How many days?
21.
21. Perfect. When you do Brahmin cattle, they don't break down. That calpastatin keeps them from breaking down. Okay? This just shows you, it's the hump on the back. We look at that 2-inch hump. If it exceeds 2 inches or 2 inches or above, he's out there. This This just shows you the two differences, a Bos Indicus and a Bos Parish type animal. Okay, we know that if it has more than 2 inches or 2 inches or above, we know it has a significant amount of calcistatin in it. It needs to go away. This is just the aging process. As you guys, we require you guys to age the product 21 days. Why? Because we know as that product ages, those muscle fibers break down into pieces. Okay? They break down, and that's going to make a more tender, juicy eating experience. I've aged the sirloin for 90 days. Don't be worried about it. Beef is very forgiving. Now, I'm not telling you to do that 21 days, but there's a lot of steak places that age sirloin 28 days. I just wanted to see what it would taste like. I kept it cold for 90 days, and I ate it, and it was perfectly fine. Had a little bit different of a taste, but I don't know that it was that much different as far as tenderness. There's 2 kinds of aging, wet aging and dry aging. You guys are doing the wet aging. Robbie, do you guys do dry aging?
Yes.
And are you going to talk about that a little bit?
I am.
Okay, good. So you'll have access to both. Okay? Dry aging is going to be more costly. I'm going to leave that. To Robbie and Ben and let them talk about that. This just kind of shows you that the aging process breaks the meat down quickly. The first 12 to 14 days does most of its damage or goodness, and then after that it slows down.
How do you control the 21-day aging process with the resale? Because when it's coming from the packer, it's not going to have the 21 days on it.
That's
So
right.
how are you?
Read that
You said from
back
retail?
Here, please.
Retail or even,
So the question is, how can we control who's aging what and how long? Well, retail doesn't have to age the beef. Why? Because they sell beef how? Eyes. Visual. How do you guys sell beef? Taste. You sell it by taste. So we actually, during this whole tracking process, we actually monitor when you bring product in, we monitor that. We monitor how long you've had it, and we go, okay, wait a minute, they sold too much for it not to be aged. And then a lot of times, we go out and audit coolers. And if you've got product in your cooler that's short dated, doesn't have enough days and you're selling it, then we got, go ahead, Robert.
What you gotta have is somebody you trust that's gonna say,
There you go.
Wouldn't that be a
I will
good selling?
guarantee you will not get a green steak from us. I promise.
When he says green steak, he's not talking about the color.
No, I know.
He's talking about the freshness. We got a bunch of young ones.
Wouldn't that be a good selling point, though, if you were actually competing against somebody else?
Oh, absolutely.
To go and look in the cooler at the pack dates on the box and see if they're within spec.
Okay, so we need to remember that when we start doing the boxes and bring that point up, because that's an excellent point. That makes you just brought something to the table. Guys, this is how we learn. Is that right there? Oh, I need to go back. Blood splash. Just wasn't bled properly. This happens occasionally. Really doesn't happen as often as it used to, but back in the 80s when we first started, this was prevalent, as was the dark cutters, which we're going to look at next. It's not real prevalent today, but it's still out there. We kept the spec in place to make sure that if it does happen, it doesn't happen to your product. Okay? That's a commodity choice or some other product. Okay, dark cutters, the animal got excited. Okay, again, doesn't happen very much. When he gets excited, how many of us have seen the HBO series or HBO movie of Temple Grandin? There we go. Okay, write that down. Everybody needs to watch that. Very cool movie. What you do is you go to somebody that knows the genetics, and you go, okay, tell me why I need to do this. And then to verify that, we can actually do ultrasounds, and they do ultrasounds on the ribeyes out in the pasture today, and they do that at a lot of different colleges, mostly animal science colleges, so that they can look and go, okay, this animal's spot on. We need more of this. Well, how do we get more of that? And there's all kinds of different ways that you can do that. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Randy?
Yep.
Real world practical example on that answer. We have a registered Angus farmer right outside Greenwood where I live. And Mr. Harrison there has got 4 sets of breeding books for the 4 herds that he keeps. The oldest of those bloodline herds there, he's got the breeding book all the way back to the first red Angus bull brought into Texas show a genetic line all the way down to where he got prevalent black hide herd, and then he changes to a new book, and from there splits into 3 more breeding lines, so that he has 4 total herds bred for 4 specific types of butchery. And one of those then is grass-fed, because he's targeting trying to sell certified Angus beef. He knows he's gonna get the most money he can on the hoof if he can get inside the brain. And so all of his breeding techniques going back to his grandfather in 1939 have led him to a place now where he's in the brand and breeding for meat and tracking that genealogy all the way through.
Perfect. So, let's play this video because I know you guys are antsy for a break. I think you'll like the video, even though it has its points. You'll see it's much, I can just tell you, it's much different today. This video's current than what it was when I got into the industry, and some of those things are what Temple Grandin actually did. A couple of points before we get going. When we get to the packing house, I want you to notice how the packing, where the cows are actually walking, is going to be kind of in a circle motion. Okay? Temple Grandin is responsible for that. Okay? It keeps them calm. Cattle tend to go in a circle motion. Their footing, it'll probably mention it in the video, but their footing is actually designed by Temple Grandin. And so when I got into the industry, the first time I went to a packing house, I said, there's no way I will not be in this industry. Anything but this. There's no way. Today, it's a different experience. Not because I've been in it so much, but because it's advanced so much in the last 25 years. The history of this thing and what has happened in the last 25 years is just enormous. Anyway, with that, I'm going to go ahead and click us over.
Welcome to your personal tour of a modern beef packing plant. This video will give you an insider's look to plant operations and how the 10 certified Angus beef specifications are verified. Our tour begins long before we set foot in the building. It starts at family farms and feed yards throughout the country where cattle care is a top priority. Cattle spend the majority of their lives at the farm, grazing grass before moving to the feed yard. These Angus cattle have been at the feed yard for about 145 days, receiving nutritious feeds, fresh water, and superior care. There are thousands of feed yards across the country, some of just a few dozen cattle. Others can care for more than 100,000. Once cattle are finished or ready for harvest, they'll be taken to a licensed certified Angus beef packing plant. Most packing plants and feed yards are located in America's heartland, where grains are grown and travel times for cattle to the plant are relatively short. The commitment to animal care that started at the ranch continues at the packing plant. Dr. Temple Grandin, professor of animal science at Colorado State University, pioneered the cattle handling process. She developed progressive handling techniques and facility designs, such as curved chute systems with high solid walls and non-slip flooring. Her concepts have been widely adopted and ensure the safety and well-being of cattle as they progress through the plant. The entire beef community believes they have an ethical obligation to honor and respect livestock by handling them in the most humane ways possible. Not only is it the right thing to do, but also proper cattle handling results in a higher quality end product. Soon after the truck arrives at the packing plant, the cattle are unloaded in a manner that prevents slips and falls. Even simple items such as plastic on the end of a stick are helpful tools developed by Dr. Grandin to calmly direct cattle from the truck to the scales. Then, cattle are grouped together in temporary holding pens with ample room to move and access to drinking water, ensuring the cattle remain calm and comfortable. All packing plants have regular audits and go beyond the strict guidelines of the Humane Slaughter Act. When the packer is ready, the cattle move into the plant for processing. Many plants work with an outside party to videotape the entire handling process. This system keeps cattle handling a top priority and is used to both audit and train staff. As cattle calmly make their way through the chutes, they move up into the stun box. Most plants have a center track system where the cattle straddles a moving conveyor. They ride along on the conveyor, and a plant employee renders them unconscious with a captive bolt gun. A chain is then placed around the animal's leg, and it is lifted into the rail. At this point, the animal is unconscious and will be bled. Plant employees who were specially trained and overseen by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or in Canada by the Canadian Beef Grading Agency, apply an identification stamp on the carcass to indicate it has met the Certified Angus Beef brand's predominantly solid black hide specification. While the traditional method is to use an A, most packers apply an ink dot on the hog. The predominantly solid black hide is the first step for cattle to qualify for the brand. Non-blacks, such as red, smoky gray, or multicolored cattle, do not qualify. At this point, the hide is completely removed. Constantly conscious of food safety, plants implement hazard analysis and critical control point programs, or HACCP, throughout every step of the harvest and fabrication process. Powerful vacuums like these use 180-degree Fahrenheit steam heat to help eliminate even microscopic contaminants. For the next step, the internal organs are removed through a process called evisceration. At this point, USDA Food Safety Inspection Service examines the organs for signs of health. The carcass is then split into 2 beef sides. Continuing with HACCP safety practices, any defects found on the carcass after hide removal are trimmed away. This is the final inspection area. At this point, if a USDA food safety inspector identifies any concerns, he or she has the authority to require additional trimming or even prevent the beef from entering the food chain. Once it has passed inspection, a hot water bath or other intervention is used to clean the beef carcass. Routine sanitation of knives and additional antimicrobial sprays such as acetic acid or vinegar are all important steps in the sanitation process. In its final phase on the harvest floor, the beef side is weighed and tagged with a unique ID that allows it to be traced through the entire process. If tags are lost or become illegible, the trolleys also have a numbering system that can be linked back to the tag number. Immediately after harvest, beef sides are moved into a cooler called a hot box. The process from the time they enter the plant to the cooler is roughly 30 minutes. Beef sides are kept in the hot box at temperatures around 34 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 to 48 hours until they reach the targeted internal temperature of 36 to 40 degrees for grading. This room uses an overhead spray chill system to sprinkle water on the carcasses. This not only speeds up the chilling process, but also manages shrink too. After adequate chilling in the hot box, the beef sides are moved to the grading cooler where they are ribbed. This is a cut made between the 12th and 13th rib to expose the ribeye muscle. We are now at one of the most critical points in our tour, determining the carcass value. To ensure they get an accurate assessment, USDA graders wait 10 to 15 minutes after ribbing to begin their evaluation. This time allows for the ribeye muscle to develop a bright red color as it's exposed to oxygen. It is at this cut surface that 8 of the 10 certified Angus beef quality specifications are evaluated. To make the final call on quality and yield grade, as well as brand certification, most plants utilize 2 USDA graders or a combination of a USDA grader and camera grading technology to evaluate each side of beef. Typically, plants of this size process about 300 to 400 cattle per hour. Cattle identified as predominantly solid black-hided and showing potential for the Certified Angus Beef brand are identified with a G1 stamp. Only those that meet all of the brand's 10 specifications receive the Accepted as Specified stamp from the USDA grader and become Certified Angus Beef product. Here, we have a beef side that has met the 10 Certified Angus Beef specifications. Let's take a closer look at the evaluation points. Modest or higher marbling and fine marbling texture, which cover 2 of our specifications. A maturity, or approximately less than 30 months of age. 10 to 16 square inch ribeye. 1,050 pound hot carcass weight or less. Less than 1 inch external fat. Superior beef type muscling, practically free of capillary ruptures. No dark cutters. Free of Brahmin influence. Only about 1 in 4 of predominantly black-hided cattle actually meet all 10 of our exacting standards. After evaluation, a plant employee sorts the beef sides by USDA grades, carcass weights, and certification programs. Beef that does not qualify for the Certified Angus Beef brand goes into other brands or USDA commodity beef. At the packing plant, food safety and employee safety go hand in hand. Plants take many precautionary measures to ensure employees are in proper attire before entering the cut floor. Equipment is always sanitized and maintained in proper working condition. To ensure absolute integrity of all product during fabrication, other beef grades and brands must be separately processed from the Certified Angus Beef brand product by both space and time. Most plants do this by fabricating our product at the beginning or end of a shift or right after a break. During the fabrication phase, beef sides are cut into smaller, more usable primal and subprimal pieces. It starts by separating whole primals of the chuck, rib, loin, and round onto separate tables. From here, each is further fabricated into subprimals and cuts that we are more familiar with in boxed beef. In some plants, a number of whole muscle cuts and trim are then used to make ground beef. After passing this final inspection, Certified Angus Beef product is then vacuum sealed in bags and printed with the brand's logo. But it doesn't end there. Shipping boxes even play an important role with a label that clearly identifies the brand. The shipping area is the last stop before Certified Angus Beef product is delivered to food service and retail distributors throughout North America and around the world.
That's going to conclude this portion of the seminar, and I think we're going to take 15 minutes, 10 minutes, what, 15 minutes. Come back, crank back up.
I happen to be one of the most fortunate people in the food service industry because of my support system. Robbie McNeely, been in the business, I think he was born in the meat department. He's been in the business for 40 years, retail and food service. I've been with Beaver Street Fisheries for 10 years. As many of you guys know, we're a seafood company that also happens to have one of the finest meat cutting facilities in the country. In the 10 years, I'll just share one story with you guys because, again, it's not about me. It's about the experts here that are going to, get you guys ready to hit the streets. I sold 0 pounds, 0 sales in meat in 2016. 0 sales. Robbie was banging my head in, why don't you sell more meat? Why don't you sell more meat? Well, because I don't try to. I mean, that was the real answer. I never tried. I was intimidated. And so what happened is I started hitting sin. Quote, 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 quote. I struck out 100 times. Eventually, I got a bite. Well, 1 year later, it was $1 million in sales. 1 year with Reinhardt Shreveport. And that was despite ourselves, because we didn't have a full team actually selling it. So I don't want to get too lofty, but I think we can potentially even double these numbers with a whole group on board. So that's all I've got. The point is if I can do it, and I'm a seafood guy, if I can do it, any of you guys can do it, because I can promise you, I know very, very little compared to these guys. I just recently got back from the Certified Angus Beef Associates in Meat Training in Worcester, Ohio, and I'm a work in progress. Yeah, I'm not like these guys yet, but maybe someday. So you guys can take it away, and if you need me to hit a slide or anything, just let me know.
Well, I'm Robbie. Like Ben said, I've been in this for 40 years. Matter of fact, I just passed 40 this past March. I plan to do at least 9 more. I hope. Unless I hit the lottery. If I hit the lottery, it's done. It ain't gonna happen because I don't play. But anyway, we are Beaver Street. And, you know, just one thing we've talked about today on the label, we changed our label a little bit. We took Beaver Street Fisheries off of our beef label. There was a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Because that just makes it just a little bit harder for you guys to sell. What do you mean a fisheries cutting steaks? Well, we took that off, and now we just say pack 4 on our label. We still have our bug, our plant numbers on the label, but we took that off, and now it says pack 4 Reinhardt Shreveport on your label. Now, if you really want to get cute with this, you get a good customer on board, and you want to make them feel good about what they're doing. We can design that label to say pack 4 Silver Star if they're the only one buying that SKU. And your buyer just fell out of his chair going, oh my gosh, now you're going to make me manage it down to that level. But we can do anything you want to as far as the label goes. All right, to make this quick and make it good.
Robbie, before you step off into the meat real quick, I just realized when Robbie said he was with Beaver Street, there's people in the room here that don't understand the levels of the players that are here. So just by way of introduction, you guys all saw and met and talked with Randy Whittemore today. Randy Whittemore is a brand manager with CAB. CAB, the big brand of beef. Then inside that, you have the food distributor, Reinhardt Food Service, obviously, for the employees. And that representative today is Ted and Brian. Then the supplier to that food service operation, in this instance, is Beaver Street Fisheries, the HF brand, and the CAB brand of meats. Their local representation is United Foods, which is myself, Brett Spivey. Ricky Gibbs is the owner of United Foods. He's with us today, he and his wife Carol. And in New Orleans, our representative is Cesar Nunez. So we're the face of Beaver Street to Reinhardt and the operators here locally. Okay?
Thank you. I don't like to take a lot of accolades. I'm just no big guy. Come on, I've been there, done that. all you young people who want to get into the meat business, this is part of it. Now, you really don't have to do this. Brett's been in the meat business a long time. Randy, you got all your digits? How about that on my what? You got all your digits? Yep. Okay, so all these folks that come to me, the only thing it was I was faster than all of them. So I'm mentoring a young man in
Not for those next 2 days.
I'm mentoring a young man in my meat operation right now. He's 23 years old. He wants to be the meat guy one day. He wants to run the meat shop. I said, it's in your accord to do that. You have that opportunity. I said, the thing you have to do, and remember this, young folks in the room, and some of you folks, a little older, you got to outwork the person standing beside of you. I have no college education. I started off bagging groceries in a grocery store. Ended up in the corporate office at Winn-Dixie by nothing but sheer hard work and being in the right place at the right time. Now I say that to make sure that everybody understands there's opportunities in the food service business. You young folks, I'm really directing this to you today. There's plenty of opportunities to make a lot of money. I mean, you take somebody like Brett, he makes $1 million a year. So.
Like Forrest Gump, they must have kept that money because I never saw a penny.
Let me tell you just a little bit about our cut shop. In our cut shop, I'm going to run you crazy, I'm sorry. In our cut shop, we have over 150 years of experience within 12 people, okay? 150 years of experience in that room. These guys live and breathe meat. They talk about it at home, they talk about it at work, and that's all they talk about is cutting meat. And they're really, really prideful in what they do. If you get a bag cut from Beaver Street, you need to let us know, because we have a system in place we can track it right back to the meat cutter. Believe it or not, that box, if you give me a picture of the end of that box with the lot number, I can track it back to the guy that stuck the knife in it. And then I can also track it through our QC process, so I'm going to bust about 5 hides when you send us a picture bad back.
So a real world application story. You know, we can project our future success by looking at how we react to our stones. We have a very large operator here in town that's a prime vendor customer of Reinhardt's that ordered a large batch of tenderloin steaks cut in 3 sizes. Ordered it, we shipped it all down here, put it in the warehouse, and started shipping to this operator. Day 3 of the operator using it, he's got a problem. He's looking at steaks, each one's different, they're not consistent, there's something wrong here. Well, that's what we sell, is consistency. We sell perfection from one item to the next. This is not the way Beaver Street acts. So Brett goes over there, gets the scale out, I'm thinking, this is impossible, there's no way, this operator's got to be wrong. Because 9 times out of 4, when I go check, there's a mistake at the operator end. Not this time. Start weighing steaks. 10 is 10.4, 10.9, 9.2. 8s are 9.1, 8.9. So they're giving away meat that they're paying for. I get on the phone with Beaver Street. Here's the first words out of his mouth. Did you check that? Did you do it? Yeah, here's the scale. Here's what I did. Here's pictures of it. Well, box it up and send it all back here. We'll recut it. Took the entire order back to Beaver Street. Took the cutters that cut it the first time. Brought them in. Retrained them. Rescaled all of it. Opened those packs up. Recut every single item. Repacked it. Rebranded it. Shipped it back to Shreveport and into that operator. Perfection. Steak after steak after steak. We're talking about thousands of pounds. When he says he can track it back to the meat cutter, he's not just saying that so you feel assured. He tracks it back to the meat cutter because that's the guy that came back in Saturday morning 6 a.m. and recut all those steaks. Okay? There's a level of quality here and expectation and accountability that runs through the entire supply chain here. And that's what you're getting when you're buying into this brand through this supplier.
We do take it very personal. Thanks for bringing up our thoughts up, right?
Yeah.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a walk through the animal. I mean, Randy done a terrific job presenting the brand, and that's what Randy and his group they do. They sell the brand. They're a marketing group. He said that they do not own a piece of meat. They have never sold a piece of meat. He is correct, but they are the education piece and what helps you sell the product. We actually take ownership of this meat, and we actually cut it, and we actually sell it. So we got a little more ownership in it than what CAB does, but we love CAB, and they are why we're here today. So let's start at the very front, and you can picture this I love this poster here. You can picture this, if he had a head on him, it'd be right here. If he had a tail on him, it'd be the other end, okay? So you kind of get a visual of how he's standing there looking at you. This is only half of it, okay? This is one half of it. And we're going to start right down the animal. This is a brisket. Huge, huge piece of meat, right here. It's under when the cow's standing here like this, you got your little cow, it's right between his front legs, that brisket.
And if you guys have your program books, you can open to the first page of the program book and you can see the cutout.
Now, a good cowboy who's buying cattle can stand and look at 1 or 2 of those cattle in a feed pen, and he looks at the brisket and he can just about tell you whether that thing's going to grade out as choice or CAB or select by the size of that chest on that animal standing in the feedlot. So that's the brisket. Everybody knows what a brisket is. You go to barbecue places, everybody loves brisket, right? It's a big old piece of meat. I love to cook these things. I do a pretty good job with it, okay? Now, right on the top side of the brisket, you got the shank, which is the front leg. We don't have one here because we don't really sell those. But like we said before, as a whole, the industry needs to sell the whole animal. So don't ever pass on any of this. And on top of that is the shoulder, or the chuck, on the very top of the leg. Now what comes out of that, as we got here today, this is a top blade that comes off of the shoulder. Anybody want to guess what comes out of a top blade?
Flat iron steak.
Flat iron steak. A lot of people call it chicken steak or whatever, but this actual steak has been developed for that customer we talked about who needs a little less expensive steak underneath you. I'm not going to call it cheap because it's not. It's good. It is a good piece of meat. personally, I went further back in the animal. A lot of people eat the flat iron steak. Okay? Then you got the hanger. The hanger is something that's just kind of taken off here recently. And they call it a hanger for a reason. It hangs inside of the cavity of the animal. Okay? It's just a hanging tender. Back in the day when Brett was working in the meat shop back in the early 20s, we used to take those things and shot it every once in a while.
That's why his hair looks like that.
That's why his hair looks like that.
Take the shot when you can get it.
Those hangers were just basically thrown into ground beef, or the butcher took them home with him, because he knew how good they were. Hanging tender steak is great if it's cooked medium rare. The longer you cook it, the worse it gets. But don't be shy about selling hangers, because that is a good piece of meat. Really good piece of meat.
This is not an item you currently have set up in stock right now, but every single one of the SCs on the street right now has 1 to 3 accounts that would benefit from this steak. Where they're selling a premium ribeye, they're selling a premium sirloin, and they're talking to you about trying to get a cheap piece of meat on their menu, this gives them a quality piece of meat at a better price point.
Steak frites. Anybody ever heard of steak frites? That's what most people think about that. Now, I threw this one in here. This one I don't really like a flat iron. I deplore a Denver steak, but there's a lot of customers out there who can use a Denver steak. It comes out of the chuck roll. Don't have a chuck roll, but it comes out of this piece right here. Not a bad piece of meat. Boneless chuck short ribs. Another thing we can do for you. All right, so that basically took care of the front half of the animal, the front quarter of the animal, okay? Now we get into the good, what I call the good stuff. Now we get into what's called middle meats, okay? And the reason we call them middle meats is because they came from where? In the middle of the cow. And how about that? Let's start at the bottom of the middle. Plate. This is called a short plate. It's a short rib. Comes off the rib eye, okay? Korean barbecue ribs. You ever had those? Flanken style ribs? Well, it seems like somebody somewhere have come up with a new cut, which ain't a new cut, but you know how chefs are. It's called a brontosaurus rib. And they take and cut between the bones and make big old single ribs. Is there any Tony Romans around?
Not here, used to.
Best one I've ever eaten. A full bone-in short rib. When it cooks, it'll draw down from that bone, and almost like it's got a handlebar on it, okay? Brontosaurus rib, short ribs.
Common in South Texas barbecue now, Mueller's, Heart 8, Pecan Lodge, those high-end barbecue places in Central and South Texas are always doing a beef rib now. You now have the flanken style short rib in stock at Reinhardt, and the 4-bone
Chuck short rib.
Chuck short rib.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a difference now, and there's a huge price difference between a chuck short rib and a rib short rib. Don't get the two mixed up, because there is a difference. Chuck short rib, rib short rib. See where it came from? The middle of the cow. What did I tell you about the middle of the cow? Middle of the cow is always more tasty. All right? My favorite piece of meat in the animal, ribeye. This one's actually a bone-in export rib.
And there's a reason he's showing you that export.
And Randy, why do they call it export?
Randy?
Sorry, Brett, why do they call them exports?
That's just one of those names that was hung on that piece of meat. It's actually a 109E.
So when they started boxing bone-in ribeyes, most of that was exported outside the United States. That's why it's called export rib.
There you go, Randy Jr. just answered your question.
So we have an extremely large buy-in at Beaver Street on export ribs. This is the ideal holiday service item for restaurants that do carving stations, when they're selling holiday parties, when they're doing a prime rib night. So we have this product in stock right now, currently priced about $2 below the market, which means you are going to tell your customer it's 50 cents below the market.
And you can kill your competition with it, trust me, guys.
You have a really good deal on this
Cowboys, we got a great price on those, and a bone-in rib steak, bone-in ribeye, my favorite cut of meat, really good price on those.
Okay, so you have customers that have on their menu cowboy ribeye, and very often, they're not actually purchasing a cowboy ribeye. A cowboy cut has the entire bone, and it is Frenched down to the spinalis and eye, okay? That is a cowboy cut ribeye. A bone-in ribeye steak, on the other hand, is cut to a specific thickness and weight without regard to where the bone hits.
Will y'all cut to a customer's spec if they want all chuck-in ribeyes?
We want Beaver Street to be the meat room for every one of your customers.
You give us the spec and we'll cut to it. That's the beauty of Beaver Street. There's no order too small, there's no order too big. You get a customer with the spec, and I know Chris, you're sitting back on time another coat set up.
I was gonna say the tomahawk comes off of 103.
Yeah, it comes off a 103 rib. This is a 109E rib. You're right, but it is, if it wasn't trimmed down to 109, it started as a 103. Then you cut that tail off, you cut that bone off, you end up with a 109. Very good.
Do you guys know what these numbers are that are being thrown around? Okay. They come from the National Association of Meat Producers, or NAMPI. The NAMPI Meat Buyer's Guide is the Bible of all meat cutting.
There's one on that top of that trash can back there.
I've got one right here. I don't leave the house for a sales day without this. I carry it around all the time. Because invariably, you have a customer that not only you don't know what he knows, what he needs, he doesn't know what he needs. But when you can open up a book and have him point at a picture and say, that's what I want,
then I know exactly what you want.
and then you can send an email that says, I want a 1710, there's no room for doubt. There's no wiggle room for what he's going to get. You now, every one of your Beaver Street codes that are set up in the description line has a NAMPI number. If it says it's a 189, then you can open up a Meat Buyer's Guide and look at the picture, and that's what it's going to be. If it says it's a 1190, when it has that extra one in it, it's a cut steak instead of a subprimal, then you can open up that Meat Buyer's Guide and look at a picture, and that's what it's going to be.
That's the best thing that anybody ever came up with. We live and die by that book.
You can order one of these for yourself off Amazon for about $70.
Well, what I was gonna follow up with that is you can get an older version for a lot less if you.
You can buy them used off Amazon from 17 to 22.
It's the best money you'll ever spend. I'm serious. It is. If you want to sell steaks. And I think everybody in here wants to sell steaks. And now let's move on down the animal a little bit.
Also, in your CAB app, they have it all in there as well.
Bingo.
You use the CAB app, you only have
Which is free. Which is free.
Before we leave the rib primal here, this flat place on the end of the rib here, when you saw them ribbing the carcass to take that photo and grade the steak, this is what they're looking at right here.
The other end.
This is what they're looking at right here. That's why he's here.
That other piece joins the chuck. The difference between a chuck eye steak and the first cut of the ribeye steak is what? It's the width of the saw blade. It's that close. Right? You move down to the animal where they rivet, like a frog. It hooks up to the T-bone, or short one. Okay? The difference between that last cut on the ribeye and that first cut on the T-bone is the length of the saw blade. That's from here to here, it's just one slice. It goes from ribeye to a short one, between the ribs. That's where it starts. Short one's a good piece of meat. I love a good porterhouse, okay? Porterhouse. What's the difference between, can anybody, here's a good one. Can anybody tell me the difference between a porterhouse and a ribeye, or a porterhouse and a T-bone?
One has the fillet, one doesn't.
Wrong.
The size of the fillet.
Size of the fillet. Ding, 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 got a winner. Right. Our spec is the NAMP spec. What was that? It can go down to a 0.75 from the bone to the bottom of the fillet. Can go down to a 0.75 on the T-bone.
On a T-bone, it can go down to 0.75 on the fillet side, 3/4 of an inch of fillet.
know how much an inch is? The first joint on your index finger is an inch. You wanna measure? Check me out. Pretty doggone close on everybody, okay? Porterhouse has a bigger fillet. But the thing you run into on the porterhouse, everybody knows what a New York strip is, right? Top part of the porterhouse. How many of you ever eat what's called a vein steak off of a strip? You know what a vein steak is? First cut. It's got that ugly thing that goes through the middle of it. It's edible, right? And in the porterhouse, you better hope you get one with a vein steak in it because you got a bigger fillet. The strip, we cut nothing but center cut strips for you guys. You won't get no vein steak in their strip. If you do, I want to know about it. Pure center cuts. That means we cut it further back, okay? Porterhouse, one of my favorite steaks, because the wife eats the filet and I eat the strip. T-bones.
But you can buy those vein steaks that you don't sell the vein steaks.
We do sell vein steaks.
That's good for casinos and stuff like that, yeah.
Right.
Bars.
Yeah. Less expensive piece of meat is a vein steak. We sell a bunch of them. In-cut ribeyes. We got a really good deal on in-cut ribeyes. And you say, well, what makes it an in-cut ribeye? That fat kernel in ribeye that all the guys like and the ladies hate, that's what makes it an in-cut. Nobody wants that kernel of fat looking at it, well, oh my God, that thing's fatty. Oh boy, that thing's good. Those first two ribs off that rib, we put them in the in-cuts. And we eat that and we sell them cheaper, just so we make sure you always get a center cut up when you buy steaks from us.
Is that what you call star fat?
Star fat, kernel fat, very good, very good. All right, like I say, here's your tenderloin and here's your strip. Tenderloin on one side, strip on the other side. Anybody know what the old timers used to call the tenderloin? You can't answer that question. What was that muscle called? Anybody remember?
Backstrap.
That's, yeah, close. The swimming muscle. How many of you ever seen a cow swim? Oh, come on. Where do you see cows swim? Cows hate to swim, okay? They wade. The reason they call it the swimming muscle is because it's the most tender muscle in the animal. What makes a muscle tough? Cow don't hardly ever swim. Sometimes they do, obviously, in her neighborhood. But very, very seldom. Very, very seldom a cow will swim. That way, that muscle's never used. That makes it the most tender part of the animal. Okay? Tenderloin steak. Let me tell you about our tenderloin steaks. You get a tenderloin steak from us, you get a true center cut tenderloin. Now we do sell what's called an end-to-end tenderloin. But one thing you'll never get silver muscle on the outside. You'll never get a chain muscle on our tenderloins. They're always center cuts. You order center cuts from us, you get a true center cut.
So that means you're not gonna get a steak that came out of the Chateau Inn with that gnarled, grain in it. One of the reasons that chefs like tenderloin so much is because with straight end-to-end grain from the top to the bottom of the steak, heat transfers through the steak at an even rate on every single one. So they all cook at the same rate, so you get more efficiency in a kitchen. That also means it's easier to overcook. And the closer you get to either end of the tenderloin, the more that grain bends and curls, and it makes it harder to cook.
All right, so remember now, we're stepping through the cow here. Middle meats, then you come to the, everybody loves the sirloin, except for me. I tell you, there's one restaurant I really don't care for. I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to call them out by name, but their initials are OB. Because they sell a lot of sirloins. I'm not a sirloin fan. There's a lot of people who eat sirloins though. Sirloin we sell is a true center cut sirloin. There's a muscle that goes on top of that, it's called the cap or culotte. You get requests for culotte muscles? You get requests for culotte steaks? We cut some of the best culotte steaks in the world. You want culotte steaks? Give us a holler. We cut.
And I'll tell you, we don't have a lot of people that are menuing culottes around. I don't think there's one in North Louisiana right now that I know of menuing a culotte steak, but I'll tell you where it's on every menu. Sandals Resort, Timeline Resort, Secret Resort, all of these all-inclusive resorts with steakhouses in them, they've all got a culotte on the menu.
Okay?
That comes off the top sirloin?
Comes off the top of the top sirloin. It's called the calf muscle.
Yeah, I got a meat mark with this. I can just eat,
How many of you go to a Brazilian steakhouse? You ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse? I love those things, man. You flip that coin over, you eat till you pop, and you flip it back. Okay? They're using culotte muscles on those spits that they put on there to spin. That's culotte muscles, what they're using. Now, out of the top sirloin, look at these two steaks here. To an untrained eye, look about the same, don't they? How about it? Those two steaks look the same to you? Pretty much, right? Same size, same shape. Yeah? Golden Corrals. I love Golden Corral. People, they just tickle me to death. We got bacon wrapped sirloins. Yeah, they wrap bacon around it because it sucks. But a top sirloin is not a bad steak, okay? It's not a tenderloin, but the price difference is about $10 a pound though. You get
Price
some
difference
is
about $10 a pound.
You get some people to try to fool you and say, well, it's a fillet of beef. No. Not a fillet of beef. Don't get it mixed up. Tenderloin, filet mignon, filet of beef. I'm not knocking sirloins. Sell them, man. We love sell sirloins. Nice 4-ounce sirloin.
These are what you're selling as top butt or baseball cut.
Yep.
That's, as a matter of fact, most of your operators here in this area will refer to them as baseball cut top butt.
Why is it called a baseball cut? Why is it called a baseball cut? About the size of a baseball. Me guys are simple, man. We're not as fancy as the straw guy. Whoa, what a job that would be, huh? Is he gone? Straw guy gone? How would you like to get up every morning to sell straws? Hey.
Damn.
But he also sells forks and knives and spoons, so you know he's got some variety there.
You do know all these guys get up every morning and sell straws.
thanks, Brett.
Except for the ones back there that are buying.
Don't stop selling straws, because that straw might be your entry into the restaurant that you can sell the real stuff. Okay? I'm glad the straw guy ain't here. I felt so bad for him. We're talking about stuff. But I did feel bad for him. I mean, come on. We have an exciting. Ours is walking around. The one that you're going to sell over the next 5 weeks. He's still walking around out here somewhere. I don't know where the straws walk around, but they're gone. All right, let's move on down to the back end of the animal. Okay, down to the round. Somebody told me about a salesman, and Brett, don't you call him out. I know how you are.
And nobody else that knows better call them out.
No, please don't. Don't point at him. Don't make him stand up. I was trying to sell a beef knuckle from the round as a replacement for a ribeye. Don't laugh.
Some of y'all don't know what a knuckle is.
Knuckle comes off that back piece. Now, remember what I told you about the muscles, right? The middle muscles don't get much work, so they're more tender. That front one, he's marbled up pretty good, even though he's the front shoulders. He gets some workouts, but he's got some grain in it. Those back legs are nothing but pure muscle, okay? That knuckle comes from that back leg. You try to replace a ribeye with a knuckle cut or a piece off that round, you'll make that customer happy one time because they're cheap. When he serves them and runs off all of his customers, he ain't gonna be happy. Now there is a piece comes off that round called the eye round. Your chicken fried steaks, and thank you, by the way, 3-4 division. You have converted us to cutting nothing but cube steak out of the eye rounds. It's because of you. We tried everything. You know, I grew up in a grocery store. We cut them out of bottom rounds. We cut them out of top rounds. We cut them out of knuckles. Finally, y'all convinced me to cut them out of eye rounds. And man, I tell you what, we will not go back. An eye round makes the best chicken fried steak, cube steak on earth. Okay?
And it has a great yield.
Very good deal. Not an expensive piece of meat, but it makes a great cube steak. Okay, so now we're all the way back to the back end of the cow. We don't have an oxtail today. I don't think CAB does oxtails. They stay away from that kind of stuff. They
But
don't
you
do
do have an oxtail in stock. It's been in stock for just a couple of weeks now. We've already moved a couple cases out.
Why
No.
don't we do the oxtail?
Do y'all do a CAB oxtail?
Why, somebody answer that question. Why would we not do that?
Grading? Grading
Wow.
is it.
What was that?
Grading? When does that oxtail come off?
Right after the cow's been.
Before.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it comes off before the hide, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it comes off right after that.
After
But
stun.
before the.
Within the
before
30
grading
minutes.
takes place,
Within the 30 minutes.
The tail is gone. How can you hook it back up?
Right.
So you won't find beef cheeks, you won't find tongue, any of that, no certified Angus beef brand. It's all gone before it's graded, so.
Yeah, I left that part off. I want to tell you something. If you've never been to a packing plant, you ever get an opportunity to go. That animal walks in, everything on that animal goes out in a box. There's nothing wasted. Even the blood. Even the blood's used, okay? The lips. I had a guy send me a quote the other day on ox lips. I kid you not, they're sold. Cheek meat. Tongue.
Makes the best tacos.
Even, I was in a plant one day and there was a blue barrel sitting there. And it looked like a bunch of vents off of an air conditioner. I said, what in the world is that? It's the esophagus. And you all go, ugh. Guess what they use it for?
Makeup.
No, that's the internal stuff.
That's the end of the makeup.
They use those in pharmaceuticals, believe it or not. Some of the, I don't know which ones, but it goes to a pharmaceutical plant. Now, how about the bones and the fat and the hair and all that stuff? Where's it go?
Dog food.
Okay, ladies,
Dog bone.
get ready.
Makeup.
You use lipstick? And nobody uses lipstick anymore? Brett, you still use lipstick? Well,
Yeah, he uses lipstick.
Yeah, he just went to fresh.
He just went to put some on.
They use that for lipstick and cosmetics. So you put that stuff, what is it, rouge or whatever it is on your face? You put no Bossier on your face. Anyway, hey, this was really quick. This is just really high-level stuff we just went through. But I want to tell you something, folks. I've been in this business 40 years, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing. You know, I got 9 more left. I keep telling people that. This is how I grew up. I've been in this business since I was 12 years old. And I love it. Randy, like Randy said, it has fed my family, it has clothed my family, it has put us in nice houses, and I got the best job in the world working for you guys. So, if you're not interested in going into something else, guys, the food business is a great business to be in. But there's one thing about it. Everybody's going to eat. If you live on earth, you're going to eat. So there's always going to be money to be made buying and selling beef, buying and selling meat, even buying and selling straws. There's money to be made, okay?
Just real quick, guys, we're gonna be breaking for lunch at, we were supposed to break at 11:30, but the fourth guy went long. So, I'm sorry, it was too easy. We do want to talk about small box versus cut steaks for just a minute. When we first launched this program, the emphasis was on cut steaks. We didn't want you guys to go out into the market without learning how to sell a cut steak program first. So we sort of shied away from the small box. Well, we're a year into this. We feel like we've got a good foundation of cut steak sales. So we just want to spend a couple minutes on small box.
Okay? Small box beef roast. That means that I can order a box. You know, typically the short one has 3 to a box. It's about a 75-pound box. You got a small operator who just refuses to buy cut steaks. And there are some out there that'll just say, you know what, I've cut steaks forever and I'm not going to change. Okay, your last resort is selling the whole piece. But he's a small operator. He can't afford to buy 75 pounds of short ones. But if you tell him, say, look, you can buy 1 at a time if you want to. Ribeyes, 1 or 2 to a box. Strips, 1 or 2 to a box. Even tenderloins, 1, 2, 3. We even got a 6-pack now. Usually there's 12 to a box. there's a big business in this small box primal stuff. Your sister division over in Georgia, it's their #1 item, is a single pack ribeye. Yeah, you better believe you can. You can, that price goes up exponentially. How'd you say that?
Exponentially.
Exponentially, the smaller the box. But to an operator who's living week to week, trying to survive, trying to keep that restaurant business going, and who don't have the storage space, who don't have that kind of capital, it's a godsend to them. Single pack primals is a godsend to that operator. Don't leave that money on the table, and don't let your competitor take that from you, because they're selling the heck out of it. Your sister division over in Valdosta, they're just blowing it away with those. I wish they sold as many steaks as y'all did. They sell a lot of steaks, but nowhere near like percentage-wise that y'all did. Nothing wrong with taking an idea and capitalizing on it. Now, Randy talked about grinds. Grinds is a huge opportunity, both patties and tube grinds. You won't get fresh grinds from us. We won't take the liability on it. Unless you give me a signed commitment that you're gonna buy X amount of pounds every week. Then I'll handle it for you. What I will do for you though, frozen ground beef. Close yours, Randy. Frozen ground beef, it's good for, if it's handled right, processed right, it's good for 365 days. We're not gonna keep ground beef that long. But that same customer I talked about buy single pack primals, will buy 2 rolls of ground beef in a box. And you talk about markup, you talk about profit, you talk about getting the $400,000, $400,000 more. That's a big opportunity for you. I want you to sell a whole case of ground beef. Randy wants you to sell a whole case of ground beef. Randy wants you to sell a full case of everything, which I do too. But there are a bunch of operators out there you're going to pass on if you don't have a small box program for them. And grinds is one that you can take advantage of. And I'm going to tell you something about Beaver Street, folks. You come up with it, we'll get it in a box for you. We are very nimble, very quick about turning product around. Very quick. You come up with it, by next Friday, it'll be in a box headed your way. I'm telling you, we're really that good with it.
Melissa, do you know where we are on lunch? Okay, while we're sort of checking on that, I want to just open it up. Surely there's at least, 2 or 3 good questions that we could kind of role play with before lunch. Does anybody have any sales objection questions, anything that you wanted to talk about when Randy was up, but it moved on so quickly?
Let me ask one question.
Sure.
Let me go first. What's your biggest, okay, you got some folks here that'll have no problem selling steaks. God love you, appreciate you. You also have some people sitting in this room going, I'm just afraid, I just don't know what I'm doing. Somebody be a volunteer and tell me, have you ever sold, is there somebody in here who have never sold a box of steaks? Congratulations. The Reinhardt Group, thank you, folks. Of the Reinhardt Group, what's your biggest stumbling block when it comes to selling steaks? Throw something at me. What keeps you from being confident about selling steaks?
Customers not being educated on brand.
Brand, knowledge. Well, let me tell you something. You've got a network behind you, me being one of them, Ben being another, your buyer division, Randy, you've got a network behind you. Guys, pick up the phone. Get the customer in front of you and put a speakerphone. Everybody's got a cell phone. Put them on speakerphone and call me. They got questions? I'll answer that phone. I only work 12 hours a day, so you have to get me in those 12 hours. But me, my assistant Javon, Ben, even my meat room manager. If I'm out of town, I go out of the country sometimes selling meat. If you call my office, somebody's going to answer that phone, and we're going to get you an answer, and we'll get on the phone with you right then and there. If you line up about 8 or 10 good customers, I'll make a trip back out here and ride with you. You've got to line up some good, make it worth their while. I'll ride with you. I want to sell steaks. I want you to be successful. Don't ever have a stumbling block.
Brett's really good about going into customers. Like, if you don't know anything, all you have to do is bring them in there and he just leads the way.
Brett is,
and then you learn on the way while you're listening to him pitch his sale.
Brett is the best, and I'm glad he's not in here.
Yeah, he's not.
He is absolute best broker I've ever worked with. Now, like I said, I've been in this 40 years. You know, Brett's Brett, but Brett's good.
Yep.
Brett's, we call him Spikey in our office. Because his hair. Well, there's Spikey on the phone. Let's just see what he wants today. But you want some help? Man, they don't get no better than Brett Spikey.
So, Robbie, so one time, I was on a call and had done a training similar to this, and a salesperson called me up. And she said, Randy, I need some help. I got a customer I want you to come see. Well, I cover like 7 states. It's just not that easy for me to go to a customer and see somebody. And so, but she had that whole, this southern Mississippi, she had that twang. She's like, well, I really, and I'm thinking, man, I feel sorry for her. So where you at? Well, she told me she's in the middle of nowhere. And I said, where's the customer? He's right down the road from the middle of nowhere. And I said, okay. I said, here's what I can do on Friday. I'll come in and basically had to travel a couple hours out of my way, but I said, you know what? I'll get this knocked out. It'll be awful to this. I don't like things dangling on me. So I went by. She said, I have 2 customers. And I said, okay. And I said, let's go to the first one. She said, I'll pick you up at the hotel. We'll go see that guy. And I said, okay. So we went there. The conversation ended up going longer than what we thought. Because he started asking questions. Come to find out he was an Angus producer, but had a restaurant as well. And so he was asking a lot of good questions. And she's just sitting there going. When we left, we were going to the next one, and she said, can I do this one? And then if I fall, you pick me up. And I said, okay, I can do that. I said, you're good. She said, I think I got it. Now honest to goodness, she'd heard this twice. When I trained her like this, and then in front of that guy. Now, there was very much an open dialogue when we were doing it in front of the first guy. She went to the next one. She missed a little bit, but we got through it. It was no problem. She sold both of them. The reason I tell you this is because that lady who was a salesperson, within 6 months, she was the largest selling salesperson of Certified Angus Beef in that warehouse. They promoted her to district manager. A year later, she was a regional manager. It happened that quick.
Here's a perfect example, Randy. This guy here, fish salesman. There ain't nothing worse than fish salesman. But now he's a beef salesman.
Worse than a straw salesman?
Straw salesman, don't make it worse. Now he's our number one beef steak seller, and thanks to you guys. Brian's giving me the finger back there. He's doing this now. One last question.
I have a question. Not that I'm just curious. I don't see where we sell CAD round. Stock.
You are correct.
That's right.
All right, now I got another question, and this is just for my personal. Eye round runs, let's just say $3 a pound.
Okay.
I understand anytime you put a knife to anything.
Yes.
Why are cube steaks $7 a pound?
I don't know, Chris. Why is cube steak $7 a pound? It ain't my fault. Well, hey, there's a lot goes into that. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that eye round itself, and like you said, you're right. That eye round, we sell cube steak, you guys, it's not CAB. It's chicken fried steak. We use choice to do that. That one today is in a CAB label because we're doing a CAB meeting.
Sure.
Good call on that. But you take that eye round, you got to bring it to my warehouse, which is sprayed. We got to open it up. We got to pour that blood off. We got to trim all that stuff off the outside of it. And these 150 years of experience I got in my room, they don't work for free. So we add that to it. Then this guy's got to make some money. And then that guy's got to make some money. And then you got to make some money. So yeah,
This HF Outstanding is your product.
Correct.
That's our brand.
Correct.
Let me ask you a question, and I'm asking you this question. So this is Certified Angus Beef, but you don't see it in the book. What's the difference in price between this and what's the lowest quality out there?
Select.
What's the difference between this one and Select? What do you think?
10
How much?
10 and 15 cents.
I can tell you right now, on the whole cow, yesterday was 13 cents a pound.
I said 10, 15
On the whole
cents.
cow.
10 or 15 cents.
So, what I'm saying is you can have this in CAB.
Oh yeah, you can.
It just doesn't cost that much more. It just doesn't.
You can. If you want CAB cube steak,
We
we
got
get.
a salesman that's sick today, that's not here, and he sells 10 or 12, 15 cases around the week.
Round or cube steak.
I
round.
too.
I
But I want it for.
He ain't buying it from me.
Healthcare can sell it around all day long.
Okay.
What'd they jump on this for?
Hey, man, all they gotta do is
Okay.
ask for it.
Lenny, I'll get with you.
And we
All right.
bring it in. I ain't seen anybody ask for any of that.
There you go. Question answered.
Ask him.
Ask it. All you gotta do is ask him.
There, problem solved.
All right.
Ask Chris, he'll handle it.
One last question. This.
Yeah, that cube steak, you doing a single slice, one piece meat?
It's right there.
From
Correct.
this area, over the years, a lot of that product really didn't follow the meat buyers guide, but they were knitting product, taking 2 to 3 pieces of trim, meshed, and then they knit it together.
You better not ever get that from me. You get that from me, I'm gonna fire a meat cutter, because that don't happen in my house.
Price differential as well.
Right, exactly. You can get cheap junk, but if you want good stuff, you buy it from us.
Yeah, you can buy a Volkswagen, or you can buy a Cadillac. They both gonna get you where you wanna go, but one's a hell of a lot more comfortable.
I got one thing to say, then we're gonna go to do lunch. Go ahead, quick.
I just want to know, how would like a brisket, a CAB brisket, compare to a select brisket like in a barbecue house?
Thank you. That's a good question.
Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, did somebody pay you to say this?
No.
So, here's
Barbecue or somewhere in this room right now, so it's probably like.
this is right time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, let me say this. Now, you guys you saw this brisket. This is a commodity CAD brisket. When I say commodity, what does that mean? It's untrimmed, it's Packer trim. That's
It's
what
a 120, by the way.
Are there other kinds? What's the yield on the other kinds?
Way down.
Way up.
Way better, way better, it's still way better, that way we don't get confused, it's just better. Most people don't know that. Most of your barbecue places don't know that. I just did a training on just the brisket. Most everybody was buying just the Packer brisket. We're not even talking CAB, we're just saying Packer brisket, because it's all the same. Brisket's brisket. But now, when we start talking about certified Angus beef brisket, we're talking about more marble. Okay? It comes down to taste. It
Are you
comes
still
down,
sticking with the 1-inch fat?
it's how much fat is on the brisket. So commodity, it's, when we're talking about brisket, and this is kind of the point that I wanted to make in the seminar. When we're talking about briskets, it is the most difference from the best one trim and the worst one trim that you can get in a box. There's not another item on the animal that has as much variation as the brisket. So some briskets look pretty decent because of the way the animal was built. And then some of them, I did one here about a month ago before I did that training. I pulled 6.5 pounds of fat off one brisket.
Remember
Just
what
to
I
make
said, the cowboy looks at that animal, he looks at that chest, and he can tell you what's gonna be CAB or not.
So that's the point, in what level are you buying? Because we have brisket flats out there, and then there's a whole other thing called next generation or case-ready trim. If you wanna know what that looks like,
What's
go on to Brookshire's. You guys are all around Brookshire's, they're right here. Well, guess what? They figured it out. Why did they figure it out? They're from Texas. You know how many briskets are sold in Texas? Bunches.
Too many.
They get it. And what they figured out is they can sell this thing, and I'm just making up these prices, but let's just say that I weigh this up, and it's gonna cost $80. To get out of the store, it's gonna cost $80. And we're not gonna make any money on it. Why? We can't make money on it because Walmart just gives them away. Okay, so we have to just give them away with them. What they figured out is they can get this case-ready trim one. It's the same brisket, it's just been trimmed. You have to pay more for it. You have to pay more for it. The fat's gone. They put a knife to it, you have to pay more for it. But it was only costing like $71. So they're paying $75 or $80 for this one because they're paying for all the fat. And they're paying more per pound for the other one, but they're getting more usable product. But when we talk about certified Angus beef, it's the marbling. The variance is throughout the whole animal. The number one, I'll just tell you this, the number one seller of CAB prime briskets in the country is in Dallas, Texas. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I was asking about briskets. I'm from Texas. I eat them all the time. Every time I'm in Texas, I get brisket. Brisket catfish, that's what I get. And so I was asking them about the, I said, man, you use so many prime briskets. Tell me about it. What's the deal? He said, oh, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. He said, I don't have to cook those as long. I said, you don't have to cook them as long. He said, no. He said, the marbling cooks up faster. He said, I'm using less wood. You don't have to chew as long either. Seriously? There's no way anybody went to that much trouble to figure out how much wood it actually is going to take. Yes, they did. Yes, they did, and I saw the study on it. Okay, so those are the kinds of things that you don't really get. And so I'm running around with a story in my head about, well, we're saving hickory wood, and and it cooks faster, it's more efficient, and it tastes better. I'm getting all these things mixed in. And so I'm with a meat guy from Argentina. We're doing a training very similar to this. And he said, oh, Randy, beef is what we do. That's a no-brainer. And I said, tell me why. He said, it doesn't take as long to cook. He said, you get a better taste, and you don't have to cook it as long. How did the guy from Argentina know that without talking to the guy from Dallas? Now, these guys are people that sell lots of meat. There's something to it. If there wasn't something to it, don't you think that we wouldn't sell a lot of this? People would go, well, it's just a brisket. Do you know what the price of briskets are today? Do you know what they were 30 years ago, 25 years ago when I was in Texas? I used to sell these things for 79 cents a pound. It ain't 79 today, is it? We figured something out, didn't we? 2 cents.
Theoretically, if somebody was using a packer brisket and you sold them CAB, they could cook it too long. If they, it's just like they say, okay, they gotta stay on the pit for this long.
I think it's more of, theoretically that would be right, but I think it's more of, we want to see how the least we have to cook it. I think they're going backwards.
Sure.
They're trying to get to the end point quicker, just like the cattle rancher's trying to get to the end point of the finished animal quicker. That's why he's using Angus stock cattle.
Can you explain a little bit?
I think we're about to break for
Hey
lunch,
guys, I
guys.
tell you what, please hold these questions, because we're gonna have a session at the end. We're gonna have a good discussion like this, and I do appreciate your attention. I know it's been a long morning. We're gonna feed you something really good. And what is it the old guy says? Go Tigers! So let's go to lunch. 45 minutes. 45 minutes.